Committee of the Whole is called to order. Thank you all for joining us. We're joined today by Councillor Govan in the chamber and Councillor Curran virtually. The agenda topic for today is a briefing with our state legislative delegation, and we're thankful to our state Senate delegation for being here with us today. First, of course, we welcome back our friend, our former colleague in this chamber, and our state senator from the Hamden district, Senator Adam Gomez. And we are also delighted to be joined by our newly elected state senator, no stranger to this body, State Senator Jacob Oliveira, as well as members of their staff. What we'd like to do today is give both of you gentlemen the opportunity to present before the members that are assembled relative to any updates that you'd like to provide, and provide us with some information on the work you're doing on our behalf in Boston. And then we'll take questions from the body, if that's all right with both of you, after you've both had a chance to speak, and just engage in a dialogue. We do have a 6:30 proclamation engagement, so we'll need to wrap by that time. And I want to thank Focus Springfield, who is recording and streaming this live on our YouTube page and our public access station as well. And so we will begin. It seems already stepping forward to the podium is Senator Jake Oliveira. So we'll begin with Senator Oliveira, and then we'll hear from Senator Gomez. Senator Oliveira, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for having us here today. I apologize. You are stuck with the Senate delegation from the city of Springfield because the House is busy at work right now on the FY24 budget. There are over 1,600 budget amendments to their document, and they are going through it as we speak, and hopefully will end by the end of this week and then pass the baton off to our chamber, the Senate side, where we can play a little bit of cleanup on priorities for Western Massachusetts. But I'm delighted to be here tonight and join with my colleague and good friend right here from the city of Springfield, and no stranger to this chamber as a former member, State Senator Adam Gomez. I represent only about 1/8 of the city. The other 7/8 are in Senator Gomez's district, but we also have the privilege and honor of also representing the city of Chicopee together. The city of Springfield is one out of 12 communities that I represent in the new Hamden, Hampshire, and Worcester district. Senator Eric Lesser, my predecessor for most of the district lines through redistricting changed a little bit and reduced some of the areas of the city of Springfield. So my district in the city of Springfield is primarily in Ward 7, but also has 2 precincts in Ward 6 as well, right in and around Forest Park area. I am pleased to say that the Senate President has appointed both Senator Gomez and myself to several committee leadership assignments. Pleased to say, as someone who spent 16 years in local government, I am now the chairperson on the Senate side, the Joint Committee on Municipalities and Regional Government, which deals with home rule petitions in many cases that come from our 351 cities and towns. And if they require legislative action, their first stop is to the Committee on Municipalities. We had our first committee hearing about a week and a half ago, where we are trying to play cleanup on some bills that didn't make it over the finish line last legislative session. It is a very busy committee. There are hundreds of bills that are before our committee each year, and if there are any items that the city of Springfield plans to submit to the legislature, I will make sure to prioritize those and get those to a speedy committee hearing process and move them along the legislative process. We also deal within the Committee on Municipalities with regulations having to do with animal issues as well, which is kind of a unique factor there. And so there are several bills, including Ollie's Law, sponsored by State Representative Brian Ash from Long Meadow, dealing with kennel regulations, that will be before the committee this legislative session. I also have the privilege of being the vice chair of a very Western Mass focused committee, the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Culture. 1 out of 6 jobs here in Western Massachusetts are tied directly to the creative economy, and with the leadership on both the House and the Senate side and the chair positions in both branches coming from Western Mass, we will be doing a lot to make sure we put Western Mass on the map as a tourism destination. I also have the privilege of being the vice chair of the Public Health Committee, a committee that saw relatively a lot of action over the last 3 years. And as we pull ourselves out of the pandemic, we'll be dealing with a lot of the issues and bills that members have filed in order to provide regional equity for healthcare access here in Western Massachusetts. I also sit as a member of several other committees, including the Election Laws Committee, member of Financial Services, a member of a new committee, the Emergency Management and Preparedness Preparedness Committee, and finally, a member of the Joint Committee on Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure, which again has a lot of focus for municipalities as any type of liquor regulations and changes come before the Joint Committee on Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure. The 57 bills that I've filed this legislative session are a culmination of the work that I've seen not just as a state representative representing the city of Springfield, but also having to deal with some of the inequities that I see in our funding mechanisms. A bill that I am particularly proud of this legislative session, working with the Superintendents Association and the School Committees Association and Mass Municipal Association, is making sure that we take a wholesale look at the way we fund special education here in the Commonwealth. Right now, we are seeing double-digit increases to many school districts with out-of-district placements, but also the support services that special education students deserve and need. Just like we did over about 6 or 7 years ago when we created the Foundation Budget Review Commission that looked at our Chapter 70 funding formula here in the Commonwealth and provided recommendations that is now pumping into cities like Springfield and Chicopee and Holyoke tens of millions of dollars to fight the inadequate funding since the original funding formula. My bill does the same thing, but for special education costs. Creates a commission to report back to the legislature and make funding recommendations to ensure that special education is fully funded and the state partners with our school districts to blunt a lot of these increases that many school districts are facing. When you look at the special ed numbers here in the city of Springfield and the number of students that are served, we want to make sure that the state is a partner with our school districts and municipalities for municipal finance. Also along those same lines, I have for the special ed circuit breaker funding a bill this legislative session to raise the 75% threshold up to 90% in order to provide relief to school districts, and that's making its way through the legislative process. And obviously, as we enter the FY24 budget debate over the next couple of weeks on the Senate side, we will be prioritizing local aid, Chapter 70, special education costs, because those are the lifebloods of municipal finance for our districts. Also looking at big piles of dollars that come to municipalities, it's Chapter 90 funding. We passed on the House side and on the Senate side, and we'll be sending to the governor's desk once we look at the differences between both bills, between the House and the Senate. A larger Chapter 90 bill doesn't change the dollar amount in direct Chapter 90, but what it does is create greater pots of funding for things like culverts and bridges, small bridge repairs, dams, things that that communities are looking at. I'm not going to take up much time here, and I want to share the time with my good friend, State Senator Adam Gomez, who has several leadership assignments in this legislative session. But I'm just here to say, as I've gone to 10 out of the 12 communities in my district to meet with their municipal bodies, you can find a partner in me working with Senator Gomez to ensure that city councilors, school committee members, the council president, and the mayor have a voice for the city of Springfield on Beacon Hill. So thanks again for the opportunity, and I'll turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Senator Gomez, to give his opening remarks, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Senator Oliveira. And just before we hear from Senator Gomez, we have been joined by a number of other colleagues, both virtually and in person. Virtually, we're joined by Councilor Click Bruce from Ward 5, Councilor Mike Fenton from Ward 2, and Councilor Victor Davila from Ward 6, and we've also been joined in the chamber by Councilor Tim Allen from Ward 7. Senator Gomez, the floor is once again yours.
President Letterman, thank you so much, and it's good to see my former colleagues, even though it's virtually, the ones that are here, Councilor Allen, Councilor Govan, and I just want to say how fortunate we are in the city of Springfield to have a partner with Senator Jacob Oliveira. He has been truly amazing on his time with the Senate. I mean, on the House side, being a partner with him last session, but having him with me in the Senate, we're able to really, our staffs are working jointly to make sure that we're servicing the constituents of Springfield and Chicopee to the best of our ability. So. We're too great. We're never too great to give also kudos to our staff that is here with us. So I just want to take my hats off to my staff, because without our beautiful staff, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we could do. And really, it's been truly an honor to be able to represent the city of Springfield and Chicopee in the Massachusetts State Senate. So I have an extensive kind of report, so just obviously bear with me. First and foremost, I just want to give you some Senate session highlights from the 2021 and 2022 season. First and foremost, the Work and Family Mobility Act, which I sponsored and it was signed into law, which this act was also survived the ballot question repeal that passed November, allows the Massachusetts residents who lack federal immigration status to apply for standard driver's licenses. This does not include the real ID. The RMV is prohibited from inquiring about immigration status when processing driver's license applications for registration. One must still satisfy all driving tests and eligibility criteria to receive a license, which starts on July 1st of this year. Good evening. I was going to call you Senator Whitfield. Good evening, Counselor. How are you? And then also one big ticket item that we both were able to work on has been the Holyoke Soldiers Home, which 2 bills were signed into law. Following the tragic events that resulted in the death of 77 veterans at the Holyoke Soldiers Home in the early days of the pandemic, the legislature passed laws to increase the access to long-term care and services for veterans in Massachusetts. That includes the construction of a modern facility for vets in Holyoke with a $400 million authorized bond for said project, and as well as reconstructing of the chain of command and increasing public oversight at veterans' homes, led by our colleague in the Senate, John Velas, which we're very proud of. Also, a bill that I sponsored and was signed into law was the Crown Act, which the Crown Act, it makes sure that no person is discriminated against, and they can wear their natural hairstyle to school, to work, wear their locks, wear whatever it is that they feel that is their natural hairstyle without feeling the face of discrimination. We're very proud to pass the Crown Act last year, and I was very proud to be one of the sponsors of that bill and have it signed into law. Another one is an act relative to equity in the cannabis industry, which I sponsored and it was signed into law. And it was signed into law that this past summer, this bill helps members of the community disproportionately harmed by marijuana prohibition and enforcement to take part in states growing cannabis. The growing cannabis market through the creation of new social equity fund that creates new access to capital via grants and loans to social equity programs participants and economic priority applicants. And it also creates improvements to the local licensing process. Further, the bill strengthens host community agreements processes and clarifies that the fees must be reasonable related to the costs associated with hosting a cannabis business in the city of a town, and clarifies procedures for permitting social consumption sites. More notably, the bill also requires courts in order to expunge of the individual's marijuana offenses with 30 days of the individual making expungement request. This portion of the bill was pulled from legislation. I sponsored this session, so I've always been very candid of when I was 17 years old, being charged with the mandatory minimum with the possession with intent. So because the prohibition is over, if we have citizens or individuals that live within the district or in the state of Massachusetts, therefore, they can expunge their records if they were charged with the possession with intent, which also leads to discrimination in housing, employment, and things of that nature. Obviously, I'm not going to go too much in there. We understand kind of the work that we've been able to do here within the council and also on the state legislature. So I was very proud of that bill. And then one of the biggest ones was our sports betting legislation, which was sponsored and signed into law. And after years-long push for the legalization of sports betting in the state of Massachusetts, this session has moved to legalize sports betting with strong consumer protections on professional and some collegiate contests. I was a proud sponsor of one of the various versions of the sports betting bill that finally made it through the legislature, and it was a pleasure to work with Senator Lesser as well as in the past session to help see such an important revenue-boosting bill through the process. Again, expanding protections in reproductive and gender-affirming health care. We know that in the federal, now in the nation, it's been a really hot ticket that, the things that have been happening with reproduction rights has been a really great concern with a lot of states making it very difficult for women to choose over the right of their own reproductive rights. So already, which was signed into law last session, amidst the urgency of safeguards to the right to reproductive health care, we took action to protect reproductive freedom in the light of the Supreme Court's 2022 decision of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. The FY23 budget added additional provisions within the budget to protect people who come out of state to get abortion care, and most recently enacted the act expanding protections for the reproductive and gender affirming to assure individuals have access to reproductive services to make these sensitive decisions. Then next, redistricting and fostering voting opportunities, trust, equity, and security through the VOTES Act, which is very important to near and dear to a lot of us when it comes to making sure that individuals have access to vote. The bill established districts in the Massachusetts Senate until 2023, which we heard from my colleague Senator Oliveira that our districts kind of shifted and moved. I used to have West Springfield within the Hampden district, which I have lost to John Vilas because of the depopulation of Berkshire County, and also other parts of the district that we needed to pick up. So districts in Eastern Mass got a little smaller. Districts like Jake's got a little larger. And obviously, sometimes my hats do go off to my colleague Paul Mark, which has a district the size of Rhode Island. So this bill established districts in Massachusetts Senate until 2030. It divides the Commonwealth into 40 senatorial districts based on data from the 2020 census that will be in effect until the next redistricting cycle following the census in 2030. Excuse me. In 2030. The redistricting map is described and doubles the number of majority-minority Senate districts from 3 to 6. So just this past year, for the first time, we have 4 senators of color, 2 black women from Boston, Lydia Edwards and Liz Miranda, and also a Dominican gentleman from Lawrence named Pavel Poyano, that obviously very proud of serving with them, and also making a little bit of historical footprint of making sure that we're still electing more people of color to the Massachusetts State Senate, not only to the House, which the Black and Latino Caucus has doubled in size after last year's election. We went from about, I believe it was 13, 14 legislators down to now I think we're about to 22 or 23. Then now we have the Driving Climate Policy Forward. The session also passed a landmark climate bill and act Driving Climate Policy Forward, a comprehensive climate bill that will build off last year's Climate Act into the firm effort to combat climate change. The new legislation hones in on 3 sectors: transportation, clean energy, and green buildings, and areas of significant potential that can ensure we meet our ambitious goals of net zero emissions by 2050. This year, we heard that we all got assigned to our chairmanships. Last year, I was proud to have served as the chairman of Children, Families, and Persons with Disability, and also I was the vice chair of election laws. This year, I'm very proud that I was assigned this session. I will serve as the Senate Chair of the Joint Committee of Cannabis Policy. After speaking with many members of the cannabis industry, it's clear that there is still a lot of work to be done in the cannabis policy. What lays on the agenda this session is the committee remains to be determined. An act to support cannabis equity business was signed into law last session. We also have legislation affecting the state's financing and spending that's very important to obviously our fiscal well-being, which we have the Fair Share Amendment that just passed. We have the ARPA bill of December 2021, that we've discussed in length before prior. Chapter 90, the Chapter 90 bill, it passed last month, will add to investments in improving public infrastructure and transportation needs across the state through $350 million in bond authorizations, including $200 million for the state's Chapter 90 program, which provides municipalities with a reliable funding source for transportation and related improvements, including road and bridge repairs. Authorizes $150 million in programs that will be assist municipalities with various transportation-related projects. This includes $25 million for each of the following. Number one, the Municipal Small Bridge Program. Number two, the Complete Streets Program. Number three, a Bus Transit Infrastructure Program. Big thumbs. Number four, grants to increase access to mass transit and commuter rail stations. Number five, grants for municipalities and regional transit authorities to purchase electric vehicles and the infrastructure needed to support them. Six, new funding dedicated to additional transportation support based on road mileage, which is particularly helpful for rural communities. Then in the FY23, the supplemental budget bill, it was just passed recently, where $368.7 million supplemental budget for this fiscal year of 2023 will provide funding to support vulnerable populations and address food insecurity, housing instability, and essential support services for incoming immigrants and refugees. Notably, the bill extends initiatives first implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic, such as outdoor dining, expanding SNAP benefits, remote public meeting access, and support for assisted living residents. Further authorize $814 million in bonding and bolster the Commonwealth's clean water and other public works projects from cities and towns, as well as the support of the Commonwealth's ability to complete the competitive federal grant funds. Number one, $34 million for the program to revitalize underutilized properties. Number two, $30 million for state matching funds to compete for the federal broadband expanse grants and improve state broadband infrastructure. $7 million for coordinated wraparound services for incoming immigrants and refugees. $2 million for the reimbursements of SNAP benefits for victims of benefit and theft. And then Governor Maura Healey recently filed a second supplemental budget that is proposed to include funding for clean energy and combating climate change, as well as $200 million to go towards attracting and retaining the health and human services workers. Then there's $5 million for the Disabled Persons Protection Commission to study and review the interrelationships between service providers agencies for individuals with disabilities within the Commonwealth, and design and implement a system for the interconnected network that will provide a continuum of care. And there's an array of other investments that were made, but I shared this document with President Letterman that he can pass it along for more into-depth things. If you have any questions, you can reach out to my office, specifically when it comes to that portion of my, the portion I was just talking about. My bad. So now we have this, the Chapter 90 bill. It passed last month. What, didn't I just go over that? Oh my gosh, there's so much, I'm sorry. So then now we have the Economic Development Bill of 2022. Unfortunately, in conference report was not produced the Economic Development Bond Bill, aka the Forward Act, but until after the end of the formal session on July 31st. And so all bonding items were removed from the final bill. And I know we worked really hard to try to get a lot of projects that are really near and dear to the city's heart to put them into that Forward Act. But what ended up happening was we at least provided $6.7 billion total in spending, $3.7 billion gross in investments between the Economic Development Bill and the FY22 closure supplemental budget. And then the second part of that was $2.94 billion in one-time rebates to taxpayers to assist with rising costs. The third part is $20 million transfer to the Communities Preservation Act Trust Fund, and a $10 million transfer to Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. There's also, it goes into an array of stuff that you can see, and you can reach out to my office as well. Then we have the FY24 state budget priorities. The House is expecting to take up their state budget this week, and once their debate is concluded, we will be able to know better in the Senate on what exactly we would be able to advocate for. So we strongly support a lot of the things that our House partners and colleagues are doing, but that's when I guess I would honestly be candid to say that it gives myself and Senator Oliveira a chance to really look at the House budget and kind of play cleanup and see where different places where we can make some necessary investments or some more advocacy behind certain earmarks and line items. So we're really just hoping that, and crossing our fingers, that our House budget, our House members' earmarks and line items are successful. You know, they're working diligently, working very hard to try to bring home the bacon, how a lot of people say when it comes to organizations and investments when it comes to our local economy and our economic development footprint. So from there, Senator Gomez's bills and priorities. I just spoke with myself in the third person. The session, I filed 84 pieces of legislation. Of those, here are a few of my that are interest to the Springfield residents. S653, an act establishing the Massachusetts Foreclosure Prevention Program. This bill requires services to engage in foreclosure prevention conferences. During such conferences, services and homeowners make good faith efforts to achieve reasonable foreclosure and alternatives, and create a process for homeowners to engage in foreclosure mediation to seek out foreclosure alternatives for homeowners. The cost of mediation is about $200 and would be paid for the banks. The program will be run by the Foreclosure Prevention Program administrator. Excuse me. And an affordable housing and buildings, low moderate income homes to renovate and retrofit. This is not right. I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. We're going to move on from that bill, and I'm going to get it back to you. So, kind of funny. I think I just lost the page. The way this printed, I'm
Senator,
sorry.
you were on the last bill you were on was the Foreclosure Act.
Right.
Anti-Foreclosure Act.
I pulled another page from the top, so I apologize. This bill prohibits EFSB from granting approval of construction to combustible fuel facilities except in which the requires of the safety of the public. Yeah, I'm done. With that one, we're just gonna move on. We're gonna move on from that one. I apologize, but it's a foreclosure bill to make sure that people stay in their homes, and that's the most important part of it. We know that in the city of Holmes that a lot of people have been losing their shirt, especially after the pandemic, and we have to make sure that we create mechanisms for them to be able to stay home in their homes and not lose their homes to receivership. And we know that a lot of people have been making enormous amounts of money, specifically with the receivership program, and people have been thrown out and put out here in the city of Springfield, and we want to make sure that people stay home. I should have just said it just like that. So S2133, an act to establish standards for the pole attachment process to facilitate the construction of broadband networks. Another one is the act to remove woody biomass from the greenhouse gas emission standard for the municipal lighting plants. Kudos to Springfield City Council. An act ensuring diversity in public education. We want to make sure that when, obviously with a diverse community like ourselves, that teachers that are going to teach our students, and we have noticed and seen that when students see teachers that look like them, they tend to thrive better. So we want to make sure that we're giving the opportunities for kids that want to grow up and become educators as well. An act relative to telehealth and digital equity for patients. An act to guarantee tenants' rights of first refusal, the TOPA bill. We have an act establishing zero carbon renovation fund. This bill establishes a zero carbon renovation fund worth $300 million, in which the administration by Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. The fund represents a down payment necessary to jumpstart zero carbon renovations projects across the Commonwealth to advance the building and decarbonization efforts to ensure that the state is able to meet net zero carbon goals as set forth in the Climate Change Roadmap Act of 2021. The bill will help our public schools, Black and brown owned businesses, and municipal buildings, and public and affordable housing buildings, low moderate income homes, to renovate and retrofit their buildings to meet the state's new energy requirements. Eligible entities located in gateway cities, communities of disproportionality impacted by the COVID-19, and EJ communities like ourselves would be prioritized to receive funding. An act to lift the rental tax deductives limit. Then there's the act relative to fueling and confiscating of off-road vehicles, which we know that ATVs has been a really big problem within the municipalities, not only in the city of Springfield, but across the state, where people have been dangerously riding ATVs. Obviously, we want to make sure that we are trying to keep our streets safer and riders safe as well. So that's something that I was proud to be able to be a part of with Representative Ramos. An act enabling cities and towns to stabilize rents and protect tenants, which is S-1299. And then last but not least, an act establishing a moratorium on new gas systems expansion. And we know that that's a really hot conversation that we're having with the new gas expansion that's going to be happening from Longmeadow into Springfield, into Forest Park. So with that, thanks for being patient, and thanks for listening. And if you have any questions for myself or Senator Jake Oliveira, happy to take them.
Thank you, Senator Gomez. And before we move to questions, allow me also on behalf of the City Council and our staff to thank your staff, who are always extraordinarily responsive in both of your offices. I know myself and many councilors, as well as members of our administrative support team, reach out to them on a regular basis around constituent issues, scheduling issues, and state events and matters. So thank you all really for being as responsive as you have been to us. It's about 6:05, so we have a little bit of time for questions. I know we have some folks in the queue virtually. We also have some folks in person, so we're going to turn it over to councilors. I just asked that they be mindful of the time, as we do have a 6:30 proclamation meeting. We have a number of proclamations. So we'll start with Councilor Whitfield in person. We'll go to Councilor Davila virtually, and then we'll come back to Councilor Govan. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank our state senators for joining us today with the updates. Senator Oliveira, I'm sorry I missed yours. I had to go to another event, but shot over here as fast as possible. But we chatted, and I would like to hear more about your initiatives and how we can support those. And I will set up some time with Devin. Hi, Devin. And I want to thank Councilor Gomez for his report and his what did I say? Counselor? Senator Gomez, you're always counselor.
Old habits die hard.
You're always counselor.
You're always a counselor to us.
Yes, sat next to me. And why is your name? Yes, Armando's name. Sorry, I know you very well and I love you. But your name just was old age. Yeah. Charge it to my heart, my head, not my heart. But Senator Gomez.
I think she was going to call me Councilor Gomesindo.
Thank you for your report. I just have a couple of questions for you. I just want to first let you know that we support you. Very proud of you. Very proud of all the hard work and the sponsorships that you did throughout the state for the FY23 budget. And I know you'll do just as well FY24. One thing that I do want to bring to your attention is to look at emerging developers throughout the state that don't have the opportunity sometimes to get on the larger contracts don't have the fair share of opportunities, and how we can help emerging developers grow, because that is a way to close the generational wealth gap and build wealth in some of the BIPOC communities, in all of the BIPOC and underserved communities. So I definitely want you to, both of you, sorry, not just Senator Gomez, but both senators, to look at that. In addition, you know, I have to bring up small business support, not just the small business technical support, but we sometimes forget the micro businesses and the micro startup innovative small business enterprises that just need a little help, need some grants, need a little push to help them to grow. But then the ones that are already in existence that also need the same type of support, especially in the Black, Latino, Indigenous, and underserved populations, they need that extra support, because we want to close the generational wealth gap in Massachusetts. We want to be the pioneers for that, and there are different creative ways that we can do that. I love your net carbon initiatives. You're also the vice president of the Black and Latino Caucus, is that?
Well,
I don't really know how that works.
I'm on the executive board now after one session and a lot of moving around. I'm the secretary, not the vice
Oh,
president.
you're a secretary, okay. So,
It's Chair Williams, and then Vice Chair Vargas, then Liz Miranda, then myself.
okay, so it's important for us to understand how we get in front of the room of some of these state legislators. You talked about a lot of grant funding and other funding resources that are in the supplemental budget and the budget at large, and we really don't know how to get access to a lot of those funding sources. While we appreciate your hard work in getting them there, we need to know as a community, how do we access them? And so bringing that type of detail maybe in a different session, you went through your bill, but maybe have you back to talk about, you know, how we access those resources is very important. And then finally, my final thought is Chapter 90 funds. I heard in the city of Springfield that they have been level for some time, and we need some increase in that funding, because we know that material costs have increased, and having a level budget isn't targeting that. That means with the same amount of money, we get less work done. And so as you guys look at the Chapter 90 funds, and I know there was a supplemental bill for that, but I'm talking in the regular general budget, that we look to increase those numbers, or that financial bucket, and then make sure that our city, the great city of Springfield, gets its fair share. So thank you for all that you do, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Senator?
No, your advocacy is duly noted. The Chapter 90 funds, how that reaches the city is through an algorithm and through a formula. So that is something that obviously we fight tooth and nail to try to, when we get different economic developments, spending bills or bills when it comes to infrastructure, to try to get in those extra dollars when it comes to the city of Springfield. Like we were just talking about the Ford Act, where we missed out on a lot of like the bonding infrastructure money that we had bonded for an array of different projects, specifically with Springfield and Chicopee. But when it comes to the investments that we make within the state agencies that are the agencies that we have to kind of advocate that they create programs for, I think that we can partner, myself and with the other legislatures, to probably bring, if it's mass development, obviously we have an Office of Mass Development here. We have a bunch of people that live in Western Massachusetts as part of that administration, and I think that they're really looking forward to really working with the little guys more than what we call the big guys that just come in and swallow up that kind of business. I think it's just being able to make sure that we can focus and know who are those little guys that are trying to get in through the door, so that we can present them to mass development or whatever state agency that they need to be in front of to get at least a fair shake and getting involved with the process of retaining some of the opportunity that you spoke of. And I look forward to working with you and with any counselor that wants to make that stretch for somebody that's just looking to get in front of the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
Senator Oliveira?
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. And I would just add on the Chapter 90, while the pot of funds for Chapter 90 hasn't changed in quite a while, what Senator Gomez and I mentioned is that there are different pots of funds that we added to that Chapter 90 bill that wasn't in there before. So that includes some of the accelerated repairs for small bridges. That includes some of the culvert and dam repairs that, with a lot of waterways here in Western Massachusetts, Western Mass communities can apply for those grants. So we've expanded it well beyond. Would also say that as far as Chapter 90 funding is concerned, we need to do a better job of getting money out the door. We know how short the season is for construction, for roadways and bridges and sidewalks. So making sure that we pass a Chapter 90 bill on time and release those funds from the administration is essential. Even though the city of Springfield won't benefit probably as much as some of the communities I have in my district, a lot of the those communities that are small in nature and less densely populated really are at a disadvantage with the funding formula. And on the Senate side, we created a new $25 million pot of funds for those small and rural communities that would directly benefit folks here in Western Massachusetts. The last point I would make, and thank you for mentioning about our small and micro businesses, and it's an important distinguishing factor to mention micro businesses. What we tried to do is, in the last legislative session, when we had a lot of those ARPA dollars that were going out the door for businesses, the first round of it was a very cumbersome process for small and micro businesses to actually access those funds because it was heavy on the narrative side. If you're in a BIPOC community, if you're a BIPOC business owner, if English is your second language, then trying to fill out a narrative is very prohibitive to accessing those funds. So we've wholesalely changed the way we've done that, more on a checklist now as opposed to having a narrative, which is helpful to those small businesses, particularly those that are that struggle with English as a second language. So just wanted to mention those areas.
Thank you, Senator. Being mindful of the time, it's about 6:15. We'll go to Councilor Davila and then back to Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening to everybody, and to Councilor Gomez and Councilor Oliveira. My most sincere apologies that I cannot be there today in person. Senator Oliveira, congratulations on a great win, my good sir. Congrats to you. You guys have mentioned a lot. You guys are pretty active, but if you indulge me, I just want to boil it down to four points that I saw today. And the first question that I have for both of you, if you both could comment, is there's been rumors, kind of open rumors, that the state's still holding on to billions of dollars of ARPA money. When can we be expecting some of that money to fall into us?
Well, quite frankly, there's probably about $300 million left of ARPA money. It's not billions, because when it came to the Forward Act, a lot of that money that was left over, the only reason we were able to even do the Forward Act after we couldn't get the bonding into that bill was that we used some of that leftover ARPA money to do those, to do that spending bill. So, I'm pretty correct on that, right?
Yeah, and thank you, Councilor Davila. Most of the ARPA dollars have been spent down at the state level. There are some surplus FY22 and likely some FY23 surplus dollars, and we are in the process of working on a couple of supplemental budget bills. Obviously, the governor filed one just recently, but we passed a supplemental budget bill just recently that included a lot of provisions to help out municipalities, including a lot of extensions for businesses as well. I'm proud to say that, you know, the ability to participate remotely, including at this meeting, was made possible because we passed a supplemental budget bill that extended it for 2 years. I actually have a bill to make it permanent. But as far as the dollars are concerned, there are several pots of funds that we will likely look at. But we are also in the process, and the Senate, the House has already taken action on a tax proposal bill to give a little bit of those surplus dollars and extra dollars in FY24 and beyond back to the taxpayers and those that deserve it the most. The areas in which I am most interested in, as far as tax relief are concerned, are to working families, so the earned income tax credit, the child independent tax credit expansion, as well as the renter's deduction expansion and the senior circuit breaker. The Senate will likely be taking up a tax bill as we pursue the FY24 budget, and we will enter into negotiations with the House. But our focus, both Senator Gomez and myself, is to provide relief to those that need it the most.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that candid answer. Moving on to my next question would be, Senator Gomez, you talked about cannabis, the cannabis industry. As we all know, this is something that it is now the law. Here in my own ward, we approved, or the Forest Park Civic Association approved a dispensary. And to this day, nothing has happened yet. Not to get into particulars, but it's my understanding that fees are being dragged. And let us remember, my good sir, that 1/3 of that revenue, in tax revenue, will come directly to the neighborhood, something that Council President Jesse Lederman was instrumental in passing himself. So Ward 6 is missing tax revenue that could be used to work here for our neighborhood. Would you be able to tell me roughly, you talked about the host agreement within that bill, what kind of timeline and how does that strengthen the host agreement process?
So the bill that was passed last session doesn't necessarily have any oversight over the administration when it comes to their host community agreement. It just, if there was something within that bill that seemed not to seem correct, they were the petitioner would be able to go back to the CCC and look at that host community agreement to deem it fair, per se, just to say in layman's terms. But for the most part, we know that the challenges that exist all over the Commonwealth, specific to individuals and people of color trying to get involved with cannabis on all levels of the industry. We also have, there is conversations within the community that there's different fixes, which I had stated that we don't know what the agenda for now looks like. We are going to be having our committee meetings pretty soon on specific pieces of legislation that can create some necessary fixes. So then people that are involved in the cannabis industry now aren't necessarily losing their shirt, and protecting the ones that are actually trying to get in. So the best benefit, I think, from the cannabis bill that we just passed had to do with the cannabis equity part, where individuals that are struggling to get involved with the cannabis industry, that there's a fund that they're going to be able to touch some of those funds. It's not going to be kind of, we don't know what those funds are going to look like until, I guess, the next year or two. But for the most part, we're looking forward to fixing what's really wrong with cannabis right now, because there's individuals that are, that there's this stigma that they think that because you sell cannabis and you're involved with the industry that you're making money. And some of these individuals that have opened are struggling to stay open. And that's one of the reasons why I was involved with crafting the zoning ordinance here in the city of Springfield. And I think that myself being the chairperson of cannabis on the Senate side, working with Rep. Donahue out of Worcester, that we're going to be creating a lot of great fixes when it comes to the industry to make sure that this industry does what it's supposed to do, and that's thrive. And make sure that the municipalities are reaping the benefits on, and the neighborhoods, like you had stated, that you advocate for, that you guys are able to touch some of those revenues that you guys created through certain ordinances.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. My last question would be, and by the way, Councilor Gomez, I wholeheartedly thank you, sir, because as I mentioned, we are missing revenue here in Forest Park, and that is not acceptable to me. So thank you for your work on, and your spearheading work on that aspect. And my last point, both of you, you might be aware that I commissioned a report, an advisory report of litter here in the city of Springfield, with the hope, looking specifically at litter in Forest Park, and with the hope that this will become a blueprint to tackle with litter throughout the whole city. There's a total of 13 recommendations, and recommendation number 8 is state buy-in. Specifically, as we all know, on the highway, there's tons of litter, particularly in the on and off ramps. And what we need is a buy-in from the state, particularly from DOT, to allocate not only the money, but also the money to address this issue. I do I have a meeting coming up, gentlemen, on May 8th, in which I'm going to formally present to this entire state delegation. I do believe that both of your offices have already responded. There will be, somebody will be attending, and I thank you for that. But you're more than free to make a comment if you wish. I really need the buy-in because it is the entryway to our beloved city. And, you know, it's some of those, it's just sad. It's just absolutely sad. And so I look forward to meeting with both of you and the other delegation. And I will appreciate all your help and support in curbing litter throughout the city of Springfield, particularly on the highways. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. And you know, in the conversations we've had in the past, on the week after the kickoff of Earth Day and the cleanups here in the city of Springfield and neighborhoods, thank you to Councilor Allen, who had a cleanup in Ward 7 as well in East Forest Park. Litter is a problem throughout Western Massachusetts, and so all of us are working very diligently to make sure that we preserve open space and protect it away from litter, including the annoying nip bottles that colleagues of ours in the legislature see all too often when we do these cleanups, and there are bills to hopefully address that issue. As far as the meeting on May 8th, I'm looking forward to joining that meeting and also entering into a conversation with Mass DOT to ensure that our highways, where a lot of the debris is collected when it's pushed out of city ways and our roadways, get caught between fencing that's operated by Mass DOT. To ensure that Mass DOT is also making sure that they're maintaining those properties and picking up the litter, because you're right, when you get off of 91, it is the gateway to our city and it's the gateway to Ward 6. And so thank you for raising the issue, and thank you for the Commission's report and the recommendations. We're looking forward to partnering with you to make sure we implement them.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Davila. We're going to go now to Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Fenton virtually. I just want to be mindful, time is now 6:24. We have a couple minutes of leeway, but I do want to make sure that we're able to move into our proclamations at an appropriate time as well. So Councilor Govan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief because I do hear the cheerleaders out there. I just want to thank Senator Oliveira and Senator Gomez for coming out here and doing what they do. You know, Senator Oliveira was very supportive in Indian Orchard and Ward 8 when he was our representative. And I'm just going to keep you as our part of our senator, I'll say. So I just wanted to bring up, you know, I'm really excited about what's coming forward, and I want to bring up the earmarks that you'll be seeing in the budget from the House. And remember Indian Orchard, Ward 8. I always advocate for my ward, and of course all of Springfield. But specifically, I think there's a couple of things about a senior center possibly in Indian Orchard, which we need. We have nothing for seniors out there, and I would love to provide something like that for them. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. I will go virtually to Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted also to echo the thanks for for Senators Oliveira and Gomez. They make a really terrific duo advocating for our city. And to my senator and our former colleague, Councilor Gomez, just to thank him for his continuous advocacy for his district and doing a terrific job of highlighting a lot of that here tonight. So thank you both, and it was a really terrific and tremendous presentation. I hope we can do it again in the future. The one thing I would like to highlight with the brief time that I have is an issue that I've brought up in the past at similar legislative briefing sessions with some of your predecessors, including Senators Welch and Lesser, and that is regarding school transportation funding. As I'm sure both of you are aware, the state system for transportation school funding is only based on regional school districts. So in Western Massachusetts, that means places like Southwick and Tolland and Wilbraham and Hamden get assistance with their busing costs. These are what I would describe as affluent, rural, or suburban communities, while places like Springfield, which is a large geographic and diverse city with over 35 school buildings to transport children to, is left with nothing in state assistance. And last year we spent north of $25 million on that cost, and it is material. And the disparity between that cost that's borne by an urban community like Springfield compared to some of the subsidies that exist for what I would describe as less needy suburban and rural school districts is something that I continue to have great concern about, and just ask that as you endeavor to advocate for our city, as you have and will continue to do, you consider that issue. I did hear Jake mention earlier about looking at education funding, and specifically in the area of special education, to the extent that there's an opportunity to expand that discussion for more equitable regional treatment for school busing transportation. It would mean a lot to the Springfield Public Schools. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilor Fenton. And, school transportation costs are skyrocketing for every school district. Having, representing 2 regional school districts, there was actually a deal that was made many decades ago that encouraged school districts to regionalize in order to provide more efficiency. And the payback from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was support for regional school transportation. The Commonwealth has yet to fulfill its promise to fully fund regional school transportation for those districts that agreed to regionalize several decades ago. I have 2 regional schools in my district. I have Hamden and Wilbraham, and then Quabog, where the town of Warren is part of. And a lot of our rural communities share a lot of the high levels of poverty that places like cities of Springfield, city of Chicopee, city of Holyoke share as well. But I do have a bill this legislative session focused in on school transportation costs. I've partnered with the MASS, the Superintendent's Association, as well as the School Committee Association to file a bill. I partnered last session with Senator Hines, who was a former senator from the Berkshires, on it. And that's to look at and break up some of the monopolies that school bus companies have on school districts in the Commonwealth, where they divide up the state and then jack up rates for our school districts, sometimes double digits in one given cycle. So thank you for raising the issues of school transportation and seeing if we can find a way to give more funding out to the communities that are experiencing these costs, but also changing the way that we divide up our Commonwealth and through our bus companies to make sure that they don't have monopolies on places like the city of Springfield, where they see rising costs, sometimes in the double digits each and every year. So thank you for raising the issue, Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Councilor. Given the time, what I'm going to do is I did see Councilor Allen would like to make remarks. I am going to give Councilor Allen the floor, and then we will allow our senators to wrap it up. And if you'd like, we can take a brief photo of the delegation if you'd prefer. So we'll go to Councilor Allen now.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, guys. Great update, great information. Nice to have you guys supporting us and representing us. One thing I would like to know more about, and you can make it in your final remarks or later. Last year, when Councilor LeVar Click was elected, not too long before that, we didn't have a special election set up. We thought we're going to vote here on the appointment. Somehow it had been approved to go to the special election, but we hadn't found out about it. We eventually found out about it, and we went to the election process. So I'm wondering if that whole home rule kind of thing, if the communication on that, when something is passed or not passed, how it gets back to us. Because last year, we almost acted in the wrong way, knowing it. So if you could just comment on that now or in the future, or let us know what we should do there. That just the reality of getting things done, I guess, question.
So in closing, I just want to say thank you to the colleagues, and thank you to President Letterman for inviting me, myself, and my Senator Jake Oliveira. I actually was contacted by the president for that particular issue, that we had to investigate on ourselves what exactly was the act that had to be taken. So essentially, there's even times when we have, some of that stuff does get kind of passed in informal session, and there's so many bills and home rule petitions that happen. Sometimes we have to go back because there's so much activity going on that it flew under the radar, to say the least. But for the most part, what I can say is myself and Senator Oliveira, when it comes to our home rule petitions, what we've told our legislative staff is to pay more close attention to those, so then when we get the notifications, we can notify your parliamentarian, so then you guys know exactly how to move for the future.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. And before we hear some closing remarks from Senator Oliveira and we take our photo, I just wanted to raise two brief issues. And you gentlemen don't have to respond to this now, but I'm hopeful to kind of put it on your radar as you're considering the budget cycle and the fiscal year ahead. The first is relative to what I believe is increase in needed funds to support local water infrastructure. Much of our infrastructure in the city of Springfield, and I'm sure in cities like Springfield, has been built 2, 3, 4 generations ago. And much of the funding that was provided to build that infrastructure was federal funding at the time. Of course, the funding to support its maintenance and upgrades has been almost exclusively now local funding, essentially on the backs of the ratepayers. And really, the rates are not meant to generate enough revenue to support that type of an upgrade. What that's resulted in Springfield is really a generation of deferred maintenance. And that's why we see the lack of compliance with certain standards, such as the HAA 5 standard. Now, certainly working together, doing our legislative oversight and working with the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission, we're moving towards the type of infrastructure upgrades that need to be made to eliminate that non-compliance, developing a new water treatment facility and upgrading lines across the city. But ultimately, much of that is being paid through a low-interest loan, and that eventually is going to have to be paid back by the ratepayers in the city of Springfield. And so I'm hopeful that in legislative sessions in the future, there will be attention paid to local water infrastructure funding so that we can not see all of that cost passed on to the ratepayers. And then the final point that I wanted to make is relative actually to funding for local public access stations across the Commonwealth. I think it is important to recognize that, at least in the city of Springfield, and I expect in other communities as well, that the continuity of our government was very much dependent upon the support of Focus Springfield. And we know that there are often less funding being made available to those facilities because of the way in which the funds are collected for them, which is through cable subscribers. The truth is of course, as we see more people cut the cord, that means less revenue for public access. And I think that it's an essential service. We know it's an essential service here in the city of Springfield, and it's my understanding that there's a number of legislative mechanisms available in the future that could be put to use to try to change some of that funding mechanism and make sure that those stations, including our own Focus Springfield, stay alive and well to serve the people of Springfield. We certainly need them here in Springfield. So again, I'm not expecting a response, but I want to give Senator Oliveira a chance to wrap up, and then we'll take a brief photo and move on to our proclamations.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for raising those two very important issues. And to Councilor Allen, if there is a change that the city of Springfield wants to pursue on the elections process, those either go to my committee that I chair this session, municipalities, which deals with many of the home rules, or it goes to election laws, which I'm also a member of. So if there is a change that the city of Springfield wants to make to it, you guys decide, we'll take the ball and then we'll run with it and make sure we get it over the finish line to support you. And the communication is essential as well. To Mr. President, to your points about our hidden infrastructure, are things like our water and sewer systems. Many of our water and sewer systems, including right here in the city of Springfield, Springfield Water and Sewer, hasn't seen a cent of taxpayer dollars come to it from the federal or state government since the Clean Water Act of 1972. That is unconscionable, because we know that if bad water gets into your system, look what happened in Flint, Michigan. Look what happened in Jackson, Mississippi. It can cripple your economy. So that's why I'm so pleased that the federal delegation led by Congressman Neal in the infrastructure bill brought in that definition of infrastructure beyond just roads and bridges and trains and planes to include our hidden infrastructure like water and sewer. And as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts receives those funds, working with the congressional delegation to make sure our local water and sewer systems get the attention they need. And thank you for raising cable access. I have many cable access communities in my district that provide an essential service and transparency in government, and making sure that we look at the way we finance it is something that is definitely on the legislature's radar screen. In closing, I would say in our opening comments, we tag team and did it proportional to our representation here in the city. I took 1/8 of the time. 7/8 were taken by Senator Gomez, doing a great job. But we are here to be partners with you, and anything that our offices and our staff are tremendous that we can do to partner with the city of Springfield, we're always here to do that. Thank you
Thank
again,
you,
Mr.
Senators.
President.
With that, we'll now declare this committee meeting at a close, and we'll invite you behind the bar for a photo. The City Council will convene for the purpose of issuing proclamations, and we have 2 proclamations to issue tonight. The first proclamation is honoring the Springfield International Charter School varsity cheerleading team and is offered by Councilor Govan. Councilor Govan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. So on today, I do want to bring this proclamation forth because last time when, I think Councilor Whitfield, well, they honored the basketball team, right? The boys and the girls basketball team, who did an amazing job and deserved it. But I know that you all were there at every game, cheering them on, helping them, and help them to win, basically. So I think you guys deserve an honor as well. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and it says, whereas the Springfield International Charter School varsity cheerleading team committed themselves to working very hard this season to show their school and community the true athleticism in cheerleading beyond game day sidelines. And whereas their dedication and determination led them to win first place in both the Division III Pioneer Valley League Championship and the Division III Western Massachusetts Regional Championship. And whereas throughout the 2022-23 season, the varsity cheerleading team earned 2 Spirit Awards and 1 Player's Choice Award. And whereas the 2022 and 2023 Springfield International Charter School varsity cheerleading team roster includes, and please forgive me if I mess up any names, Ashley Nowicki, Deshalis Ocasio, Caitlin Ash, Alicia Rivera, Sarah Crawford, Ariana Laboy, Lee Anexa Blas, Peyton Chapman, Rebecca Carliel Boucher, Shayla Vasquez, Ladarius Williams, Sienna Meredith, and Carolyn Jenga. And whereas they are led by head coach Aaliyah B. Spruill and assistant coach Destiny Rosado, now there be it proclaimed that the Springfield City Council hereby recognizes, honors, and commends the Springfield Charter School varsity cheerleading team on winning the Division III Pioneer Valley League and Western Mass Regional Championships and wishes them continued success in their future seasons. Keep up the good work. And this proclamation is sponsored on today, April 24th, 2023, in honor of the Springfield International Charter School varsity cheerleading team, signed by Gladys Oyola Lopez, City Clerk, and is sponsored by myself, Ward 8 City Councilor Zeta Govan, and all the councilors here. So congratulations. All of you will get a proclamation, a copy of it.
And so we do have a copy of each proclamation for each member of the team. And what we're going to do now is hear from any additional counselors that would like to share their congratulations or remarks. And then we'll welcome the coaches if you would like to speak on behalf of the team, and any team members that would like to share any thoughts. And then we'll invite you behind the bar for a group photo, all right? So at this time, are there any further counselors that would like to speak? Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say, the sports teams, the basketball, football, and all the other teams, they get so much recognition. But you all deserve the same recognition because you put in hard work, you do those practices, you travel. Parents, too. You know? Parents are players, too. So, I mean, you guys got to be there, support them in the traveling. So I want the cheerleaders to give the parents a round of applause, like stand up, face them, and tell them, yes, because that support is everything. You guys are amazing. I know that you're gonna go wherever you want in life. This teaches you teamwork and dedication and just learning how to deal with sportsmanship and competitions, because maybe sometimes you won't win, right? But you know how to deal with losing, and still at my age, folks don't know how to deal with losing sometimes. So it's a valuable lesson up front. Sarah, are you the captain? No, who's the captain? She on her way? Well, so she's doing multiple things. Well, the winter season. Okay. Well, you're a captain in my heart because I've known you almost your whole life. So But to all of you, you're all captains, you're all leaders, and congratulations. And I am so glad that Councilor Govan put this proclamation together so we can celebrate you as well, because you deserve it. So thank you.
Councilor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. Me and Tracy was talking earlier. She stole my notes, by the way. No, but really, it's an honor to recognize the cheerleaders because, you know, I'm a coach in the city of Springfield myself, and without cheerleaders, because we didn't have them at my school this year, but without cheerleaders, it's hard to get the kids motivated and also the student body. So kudos to Springfield International Charter School. I've always seen Ayanna Crawford's posts, bigging up the cheerleading squad. So you guys are phenomenal. You girls are amazing. You rock, and we're here to support you. I'm here for it all because, again, without that support, the boys and girls team would not have won that, and I'll stand on that. So that the state championship that the girls won and the Western Mass Championship that the boys won, that's your championship as well. Kudos and congratulations.
Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. When you look around, there's nobody who does anything as successful without support of other people, and that's what you guys have done. You supported your teams. Those of us sitting up here behind this communion rail or whatever it is, we didn't get here without the support of other people. And to be humble and understand that and to share our love and support for all of the people we deal with is one of our jobs as a human being, and you guys have done it gracefully and enthusiastically. I know you're enthusiastic, you're cheerleaders, so great job helping out other people and supporting your friends. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. And before we invite the coaches forward to say a few words, allow me to say what a great pleasure it is to welcome you to the City Council chambers. And I'm especially excited when we have a chance to have young people in the room because I stand before you not only as the president of the City Council, but as its youngest member. And I always bring that up when we have individuals coming from our schools, our local colleges and universities, high schools, middle schools, to say that while we all sit here today in our suits with our city pins and our name tags in front of us, every single one of us in this room sat where you now sit. We sat in classrooms in our school uniforms, and we started out as kids in the city of Springfield. And you guys are already showing the incredible potential, living up to the success that we know you are capable of. We are so grateful to you for being ambassadors of the city of Springfield. And when you take your proclamations home tonight, you know, I always want to share a little bit of information about what a proclamation really is, because a proclamation is a written history of the city of Springfield. And we want to make sure that in the future, when future generations look back, they know the story of Springfield. The story of Springfield is your story. It's the story of all of our families, and you are such an important part of that. And so as you move forward in your academic careers, in your sports careers, keep that foundation that you've gotten from your parents, from your coaches, from your teachers. Make a plan, but don't be afraid to change that plan because you never know where life will lead you. For some of you, it'll lead you right here to the City Council chamber, we hope. But we also know there's so many ways to serve, whether it's in public office, whether it's doing what you love, as long as you're giving back to your community, never forgetting where you come from. We know how much is possible. And so at this time, we will welcome the coaches forward. If you'd like to share a few words, you can go right from that podium right next to you.
Thank you. I'm not a public speaker whatsoever, and I was not prepared to give a speech, so I'll keep it very short and sweet and just say I'm extremely proud of each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting your school, for at times supporting me as well when I needed it, and each other, for coming so far in our journey, for working tirelessly days, nights, weekends, double headers at times, which we were not too happy about. But through it all, you guys have always had amazing spirit, and I'm very grateful for all that we have accomplished as a team. So congratulations.
Thank you. Councilor Whitfield?
I'm sorry, I would be remiss if I did not say thank you, coaches. Because sometimes when the parents aren't there, you take over that role and you get them to where they need to be. And without your support, they wouldn't, I can't do all that. I want to, but thank you to the coaches as well.
And are there any other coaches that would like to speak? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Again, I was not prepared. Girls, I am so proud of your hard work, your dedication, all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into those practices. It definitely paid off, and I am so, so proud of you. Good job and congratulations.
And finally, do any of the players want to say a few words? You don't have to, but you're welcome to. All right. So are you sure? As we say in the chamber, we'll say again, do any of the players want to say a few words? Seeing none, Councilor Govan, would you like to maybe call each player up? And when you hear your name, if you want to come behind the bar and receive your proclamation, and then we'll do a group photo, all right? So Councilor Govan, you can call them one by one. She's celebrating remotely. No, stay back here, stay back here. We have one additional proclamation, or one final, I should say, proclamation this evening. And we'll just allow the chamber to clear before we proceed with that. All right. Our final proclamation this evening is offered by Councilor LeVar Click Bruce. And it is in honor of Kaylee Rose Van Zant. Councilor Click Bruce.
All right, thank you, Council President. I want to bring this proclamation forth because I have a young lady who's doing great work at SciTech and also at the YMCA. And she recently entered into a rhetorical contest at Western New England University, and she actually won the event, or the contest, excuse me. And she's scheduled to go to Western New England University in the fall to study law. So with that being said, whereas the City of Springfield is pleased to recognize Kaylee Rose Van Zant, and whereas Kaylee Van Zant is a proud senior at the High School of Science and Technology, and whereas Kaylee is also a member of the After Dark program, where she is able to attend Putnam Vocational to obtain an IT certification in 2 years rather than 4 years required. And whereas Kaylee is a part of the Student Council at the High School of Science and Technology, and I'll make a footnote there, she actually wants to be a city councilor here in the city of Springfield as well. And she is also one of the teen youth leaders with the YA program. And whereas Kaylee won the second annual Eastman Black History Month rhetorical contest, and whereas Kaylee Van Zant wrote and delivered an essay about George Washington Carver. So I'm not gonna read all this. And I'm just gonna speak from my heart. She's really what epitomizes the city of Springfield. Resilient, articulate, and just really a go-getter. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention her mom, who's a supporter of her and always encourages her to be the best that she can be. So Kaylee, I want to say, go on to Western New England University, be the best version of yourself. Don't let any distractions get in your way. Get that law degree and spread your wings. And hopefully you'll come back and give back to the city of Springfield and show the young people that there is more than just going to school. Go and learn and be the best version of yourself. Now, I'm an athletic type of guy, but this right here touched my heart, and I want to make sure we're recognizing those students who don't necessarily play sports. So again, I just want to end with this. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Springfield Council hereby recognizes, honors, and commends Kaylee Rose for her hard work and display of leadership in and out the classroom. Wishing you all the success in your future endeavors. And this proclamation is sponsored by myself and all the city councilors here in the city of Springfield. Also want to co-sponsor by Tracy Whitfield, co-sponsored by Zeta Govan, and co-sponsored by Timothy C. Allen, because they are in the council chambers, and also our council president, Councilor Liederman. So again, Kaylee, we congratulate you, we salute you, continue to do great things. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Councilor Whitfield, and while we hear additional comments, Kaylee, we would welcome you to the podium as you're being recognized. So you can stand right at the podium. There you go. All right, Councilor Whitfield.
First, I want to say you look amazing. You came in here ready for an award ceremony. I want to give you many more just so I can see how you dress. So I'm City Councilor Tracy Whitfield. It's such a pleasure to hear about all of your accomplishments and your future endeavors and what you've done in 2 years. And it's just really amazing. And I'm so glad that Councilor Click Bruce brought you in front of us, because we would have never knew your story. We don't know a lot of stories about students just like you that may not necessarily get the same recognition as the athletic folks and things like that, but we are so honored to honor you and give you all the praise that you deserve, and you just keep going. And if you ever want to learn about becoming a city councilor, you could join my team. I want to get you first because you look like a hard worker. I know he brought you here, but we could work together. So just congratulations, and just keep going, and you're doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what you do in the future.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Govan?
Yes, thank you very much. And I want to just reiterate what the other councilors have said. I want to congratulate you. The Eastman Chemical Foundation rhetorical contest, I was one of the judges, and I did read your essay, and I think it was amazing. So I'm truly, truly glad you did win, and I really look forward to hearing what you're doing in the future. I know you're going to be sitting up here in the city council one day, and possibly in higher offices than this. So congratulations, and just keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Allen?
Congratulations. It's great to hear your accomplishments and what you've done, how you've believed in yourself, and how you got to this point. So to have Councilor Click Bruce do a proclamation in support of you. So great job and best luck in the future.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. We have several councilors present virtually. Do any of the councilors that are present virtually wish to be heard? Seeing none, allow me to say, Kaylee, once again, congratulations on behalf of the Springfield City Council. And I believe you were in the chamber when we were speaking with the prior proclamation recipients. But the same is also true for yourself. As a young person in the city of Springfield, somebody with aspirations of public service, we're so glad to welcome you to the City Council chamber. And we certainly look forward to the day when you have a chance to place your name on the ballot. To be quite honest with you, it might surprise you to learn, was not much older than you are now when I first ran for the Springfield City Council, and we know that in the city of Springfield there certainly is an openness to youthful leadership. I am really the second member of the City Council to serve as president while serving as its youngest member, and you are laying a mighty foundation for your future, and we thank you for your contributions already to the city of Springfield and for being part of our story and part of our future. And so at this time, we'll turn the floor over to yourself. If you'd like to make your maiden speech here on the City Council floor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for presenting me with this incredible honor. I am humbled to receive this proclamation and grateful for the recognition it represents. I am particularly grateful to those who have supported me throughout my journey, like my mother, friends, and mentors. Your encouragement, guidance, and belief in me have been a huge factor in my success, and I would not be standing here today without your support. Thank you once again for this incredible honor. I will cherish it always, and I promise to continue striving for excellence and making a positive impact in our community. Thank you.
So with that, we will declare a very brief recess. We'll invite Kaylee behind the bar for a quick photo, and then we will convene for our hearings meeting. Council will come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Counselor Fenton. Away. Counselor Perez. Absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Here.
Present. Counselor Govan.
Present.
Present. Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present. Counselor Brown.
Present.
Present. Counselor Hurst.
Present.
Present. Counselor Click Bruce.
Present.
Present. Counselor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Counselor Curran.
Present.
Present. Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present. Counselor Letterman.
Present. Madam Clerk, please recognize Councilor Fenton.
Counselor Fenton. Present.
Will members and guests please rise and join me in a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, please call the first item.
The first item is the Rifle Street one-way.
Is there anybody here to speak to this petition?
Yes, Hector Velez, DPW Springfield.
Mr. Velez?
Yes, this is to change a section of Rifle Street from two-way to one-way. This is part of the improvement we are doing in that area. The street is too narrow to have parking on one side and traffic in both directions. And we're trying to make it safer area in Rifle Street. The section is from Central to Chester. And it's gonna be safer to have one parking on one side and traffic in one direction instead of two.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes.
Are there any questions on the petition? Seeing no questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the change.
On approving the item, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez. Absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The petition is approved. Madam Clerk, please call item 2.
Item 2 is for a special permit for motor vehicle sales at the property known as 1000 Worcester Street.
Is the petitioner present? Please step forward. This is a special permit hearing. It'll be run in accordance with the rules of the Springfield City Council. Proponents will be given 20 minutes to present their case. Opponents to the special permit will be granted 20 minutes themselves. A rebuttal on both sides will be limited to 5 minutes. With that, I will now declare that the public hearing is open and will recognize the petitioner as the first proponent. Please state your name and address for the record.
1000 Worcester Street in Indian Orchard. My husband and I are owner-operators of Pro Auto Air Service in Indian Orchard, and we are here. It's currently an automotive repair shop, and we are requesting a special permit for used car license up to 15 cars.
Thank you. Do you wish to offer any further testimony?
No.
Thank you. You may be seated. Is there anyone else present in person or virtually to speak in favor of this special permit? Say again, is anybody present in person or virtually to speak in favor of the special permit? Seeing none, is there anybody present to speak in opposition to the special permit, either in person or virtually? Seeing none, are there any questions from members of the City Council while the hearing remains open? Councilor Govan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a comment that the Sierras did come to the Indian Orchard Citizens Council neighborhood meeting, and they presented their plans. There was actually a site visit prior to the meeting where the abutters that were in the neighborhood were able to meet them and ask them questions. And the board voted unanimously to provide them a letter of support, which they may have submitted to the city council. I'm not sure if they did or not, but the letter of support was awarded to them, and we are in support of this special permit for them.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Are there any further questions or comments from members of the council while the permit hearing remains open? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, was there any written testimony submitted?
There was not.
Thank you. With that, if there's no further questions from the council, without objection, I'll declare that the public hearing is now closed. Is there any deliberation prior to our vote? Say again, is there any deliberation prior to our vote on the special permit? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the permit. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On approving the special permit, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Abstain.
Abstain, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The special permit is approved. Councilor Fenton on the reasons.
The site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use. We incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision as the basis of the findings.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Is there any discussion on the reasons? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the reasons.
On approving the reasons, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click-Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The reasons are approved. Madam Clerk, before we call the next item, please ensure the record reflects that Councilors Walsh, Brown, Hurst, and Davila are participating remotely. And if you will now please call the third item.
The third item.
Councilor Fenton.
If I may, if there's no objection to us taking item number 4, it is an administrative matter. We previously approved a special permit for this applicant, and due to a notice issue, they're back here just for ratification of their approved hours by the neighborhood.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Without objection, Madam Clerk, please call item 4.
Item 4 is to amend an existing special permit for a mechanical public car wash originally granted in March 2003 by allowing the change of hours of operation at the property known as 1310 St. James Avenue.
And I see that the petitioner is present. At this time, I'll declare that the special permit hearing is open. The proponents will have 20 minutes to state their case relative to the special permit. Opponents will have the same right. Each side will be limited to 5 minutes of rebuttal at this time. I recognize the petitioner as the first proponent.
For the petitioners, Rich Lemon and his son Corey. We were here about a month ago for a special permit for the St. James Car Wash. We need to extend, if we can, subject to your permission, 1 hour of operation to 10 o'clock at night. And I believe we've passed muster with the neighborhood council.
Thank you, Attorney Phillips. Is there any further testimony from yourself or the petitioner?
No.
We'd ask at this time then that you step aside. Is there anybody else present in person or virtually to speak in favor of the special permit? Say again, is there anybody else present in person, virtually, to speak in favor of the special permit? Seeing none, is there anybody present in person or virtually to speak in opposition to the special permit? And seeing none, Madam Clerk, have we received any written testimony?
We have not.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council prior to the close of the public hearing? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought that we did this one we didn't, with the other?
Councilor Fenton.
We did approve the special permit extending it to a new petitioner, but at the same time, they requested an extension of the hours by an hour, and we couldn't do that because Attorney Shea said there was an issue with the notice. So
Oh, okay.
so
All
we're
right, I was
approving the
like,
hours, not the petitioner
sure
change.
we did this. Okay, thank you.
Deja vu. Is there any further deliberation or questions prior to the close of the public hearing from the council, either in person or virtually? Seeing none, without objection, I'll now declare that the public hearing is closed. Is there any deliberation amongst the council prior to our vote? Say again, is there any further deliberation or debate amongst the council prior to the vote on the special permit? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the permit. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On approving the permit, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurst.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The permit is approved. Councilor Fenton on the reasons.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use. We incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision as the basis for the findings.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Is there any discussion on the reasons? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the reasons.
On approving the reasons, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez, absent. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The reasons are approved. Madam Clerk, please call the final item, item 3.
Item 3 is for a special permit under the Regional Shopping Center Overlay District, as well as the construction of a new retail development at 1719 Boston Road.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is the petitioner present? Please step forward. This is a special permit hearing that, again, will be run in accordance with the rules of the Springfield City Council. Proponents will be granted 20 minutes to present their case in favor of the special permit. Opponents will have the same right at 20 minutes. Both sides will be limited to 5 minutes of rebuttal. And at this time, I will declare that the public hearing is now open and recognize the petitioner as the first proponent. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Seth Stratton. I'm an attorney with Fitzgerald Law, with offices at Monarch Place here in Springfield. I'm counsel to petitioner Onyx Springfield Crossing LLC. While I make a few opening remarks, we have a few materials that Brian's going to pass out to the council. Onyx Springfield Crossing LLC is the redeveloper of the Eastville Mall site. I'm excited to be here tonight as someone who grew up in East Forest Park and went separately with each of my parents to do Christmas shopping at Eastville Mall as a kid so that the other one wouldn't know what we were buying. I have memories of that. I live not too far down the road in Wilbraham, and I drive by the site every day. And there's certainly some opportunity for improvement, and I'm excited to be part of that team. I'm not going to share any of Anton Melchiondo, who's the principal of Onyx. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I do want to make a few brief remarks. I want to introduce a few folks who are part of the team here. My colleague, John Drost, a face many of you know well, the former mayor of the city of Springfield and former judge, Mary Hurley, who's part of our team. Frank Quigley on the development team as well.
With us from Onyx is the principal of Onyx, Anton Melchionda, and his vice president of development, Brian Kaplan, who many of you have met, who's passing out some materials. We also have John Hessen from VHB, as well as Seth Cates, our architect here, to answer any questions. Anton may mention a few additional members of the team. Before I introduce Anton, I just want to tell you why we're here. The mall does need to come down, and under the Springfield zoning ordinance, there are two items that require a special permit from this council. One is that the development itself exceeds 150,000 square feet, which triggers a special permit under the zoning ordinance. There's also what's known as a regional shopping center overlay district, and that regional shopping center overlay district requires a special permit for any alteration of a demising wall, et cetera. As we'll be demolishing the property, that's triggered. By the way, separately, last week we went to the planning board and we're looking to remove that regional shopping center overlay district, which is really a relic of the former mall. That will come before the council at the next hearings meeting. The planning board did vote in favor of that. But because it's still in place, we need the special permit here tonight. Two final items I'll mention. We spoke with neighborhood councils, and particularly the Indian Orchard Neighborhood Council, with Councilor Govan under her stewardship, had a very robust discussion and are pleased to report that we've received a favorable recommendation from the neighborhood council. Finally, there's been a lot of discussion around tenant relocation as part of this project. Anton will tell you about the project itself, but we've identified early on in conversations with the developer that that was an important issue, and we enlisted the help, and it's been a great help of the Western Massachusetts EDC with Rick Sullivan, and in particular Xiomara Alban, who's really been a convener and a clearinghouse and worked very hard rallying resources, communicating with tenants to assist with that process. She's here tonight, and I believe will speak to some of the great efforts that have been made in that regard. So without further ado, I will introduce Anton Melchionda, who is the principal of Onyx, to tell you a little bit about the exciting development at the Eastfield Mall site.
Seth, prior to hearing from the principal, and I've stopped your time, this handout that you've submitted to us, it seems to include primarily information that's also included in the packet. However, it is not at this time available virtually to the counselors that are participating virtually. So what I'm going to ask for is, at some point, is a member of your team going to review this page by page? It's only about 3 pages, but I think it's important that, given that it was submitted to us in person, that they understand what's on it. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. But
Sure. We'll make sure that we walk through it so that it can be followed. In the meantime, we'll see if we can't email a copy.
If you can send a copy to Susan, she can distribute it virtually at this time.
Okay.
That would be, you have
I'll
the email.
work on that while
you can
he
email
makes-
city council staff at springfieldcityhall.com.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Walsh.
Those of us that are virtual, are they going to do any screen sharing?
Councilor Walsh, the presentation that they've handed out is not, they are not presenting it in the chamber via PowerPoint. However, I'm working on arranging for the material to be sent virtually to you at this time. So this time we'll continue with the hearing.
Sure.
And we'll invite the principal forward.
Sure. I'll introduce Anton Melchionda.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Anton Melchionda. Sorry, my address?
Yes.
140 Farm Street in Dover, Massachusetts, formerly of Amherst, Massachusetts, which I'll get to in a second. So thank you, first of all, everyone, for your time. As Seth said, my team is here, everyone that's worked with us here in Springfield for the last year, a little bit more than that. A lot of these folks have been with me, and we've all been together for more than 20 years. So a long time, and we've done a lot of really neat things around the country. So Onyx, by way of background, is actually indirectly a homegrown local business. So I grew up about 20 minutes from here, 25. I probably drive a little too quick. That's how long it takes me to get home. And my family still lives in the house that we grew up in Amherst. My mom still lives there. My sister and I have moved out. But so we've been in that house for 50 years. And all of you who have been around for any amount of time close to that know what Western Mass looked like back then, what Springfield looked like, and what Amherst looked like. And so growing up, we didn't have any malls in Amherst. We had cow fields and universities. So twice a year, my sister and I would both get a clothing allowance. And there was really nowhere in Amherst, so this was our city. So I think our whole life, I was talking to my sister about this the other day, I think from 0 to 15, we went to Boston twice to go to field trips, and that was it. So Springfield was our city, and that's where we went. So that's by way of background. And then, so fast forward the tape, moving to Boston, growing up in the trades in Western Mass and working with my hands. I started working at a gas station when I was 13, changing oil, working on cars, and got very involved in the trades. And then later on, coming back to Massachusetts, got involved in the real estate business in my early 20s and started to get involved in different kinds of projects. Nothing of this magnitude, smaller type projects. And so built a business with my partners and some of the folks that you see here over the last 30 years and have been engaged in projects such like this. I think in Brian knows, I think in 47 different states. So we've been kind of all over the country, which is kind of neat, cool, overwhelming, whatever it is. But how did we end up here? So a little bit more than a year ago, I get a call from a gentleman who I know who knew that I grew up in Western Mass. And he said, hey, how busy are you? And I said, well, I'm always busy, but what's your question? And he said, do you have any interest in doing a project in Massachusetts? I said, well, what is it? And he said, I actually have a contract to purchase the Eastfield Mall, and I'm not going to proceed. And I remember like it was yesterday. I didn't ask him a lot of questions. I didn't ask him how much. I didn't ask him what the plan was. I asked him probably 2 or 3 very simple questions, and I just said yes. Put me in touch with the current owner. I said, I want to redevelop that mall. And that was how this whole journey started. So one thing led to another. We talked to the owners, made a business deal with them. And even at that point, we didn't even know financially, and everyone in my office can attest to that. We had no sense if this project was going to work, no sense whatsoever. And then earlier this year, with a lot of things that have happened in the financial markets and then the banking industry, become even more challenging. And everyone in my office will tell you that there's other parts of the country where we've looked and had second thoughts about doing things, but we've never wavered from this project. Why? Selfishly for me, Seth told me I only have 4 minutes, so I got to be really careful. And I'm not good at public speaking, so I apologize. Seth likes to talk in front of people. I don't. It's actually an interesting story, and then I'll wrap up with it. And a true story. So my mother really doesn't even know what I do. She knows I do something with buildings. And then I called her after I had agreed to buy the mall over the phone. And I said, Mom, guess what? And she said, what? And I said, you're going to get a chance to understand what I do. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to buy the Eastfield Mall. And she speaks with broken English because we're not from this country. And she said, what do you mean? I don't understand. I said, I'm buying the mall. She goes, no, I know, the Eastfield Mall. I said, yeah. She goes, what do you mean you're buying it? I said, I'm buying it. She goes, I just drove by it the other day. I said, yeah, we're going to own it, and we're going to put new stores in there. We're going to do something very different. And she said, I don't understand. I'm going to have to call your sister, and hung up the phone. So that was the conversation that I had with her. And then it actually sparked this huge conversation. And now my mother understands what I do, which is kind of cool. And the first time I went to meet Mary, I told Mary the story and everyone around, and everyone's tired of hearing it, but that's our family, that's who we are, that's what we've done, and that's why we're excited about being here. So where we sit today, we've worked tirelessly on a plan for the mall, and we love what we've come up with. We're not 100% done with all of it, but we're 99% sure that we're clear what we're doing and what we're presenting to everyone tonight. And I can just tell you, we love what we've come up with. It makes sense based on where the world is. It makes sense to look at something that has been so important to this community for so long that no fault of anyone's. It's not like anyone can point a finger and say why things have happened, but it's just kind of the way the world's changed in how we shop and how we eat and how we do things. And so the most important thing for me when we came up with this plan was to think about, and I'll give Brian a lot of credit. He has been here like every other day, talking to everyone who will listen, and even people who won't listen. Brian would talk to them and ask them the question which we always ask, which is, what is important to you? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's important to me. It matters what's important to everyone in the community, and we've done that. We've talked to everyone around us, everyone who could remotely end up shopping here and asking the questions. What would you like to see? What's important? What kind of uses? And we've been able to, very fortunately, do that in a collaborative way and end up with a finished product that we have. And we're super, super excited to share that with everyone who's here. So, that's more than 4 minutes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell. So that's my story. That's all I know. That's what we're doing. I think that we want to answer questions, as everyone can imagine. For me to come home and make this kind of investment into this community, into my community, and my mother will be there, I promise, at ribbon cutting, at store opening, to finally understand all that. It's a huge, huge commitment we're making. The total project will invest somewhere between I think $65 and $80 million to redevelop this property. That's very significant for the community. The tax revenue at that point will be increased by $1.7 million. We will be creating permanently over 800 jobs through construction and everything else, a multiple of that. More importantly, what we've done is we've started on Boston Road, which wasn't there when you used to go there a long time ago. It was a very different corridor. Started to look and explored, with support of the community, other properties right along the corridor that we have eyed to potentially redevelop for other uses. So this is not strictly an investment, but it's a huge investment for us, as you can imagine. We think it's very meaningful for the community, and we want to continue that anywhere else that we can, and working collaboratively with everyone here, with all of the wards, with all of the community members, to figure out what is important to everyone and what we can do to help facilitate that. So I think if Seth says that, am I supposed to take questions? Because I'm happy to, or no? You've had enough? Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Briefly, before we proceed to the next proponent, for the councilors that are participating virtually, you should have received from Susan an attachment in your email that is reflective of the same presentation that was handed out to the councilors in person. So you should have that in your email now. At this time, I will ask if there are any further individuals present to speak in favor of the special permit. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Hessian. I'm with VHB, with offices here in Springfield at 1 Federal Street. We are the civil engineer and traffic engineer on the project with Onyx Partners. I'm going to give a brief overview of what the project is, other than what Seth and Anton have shared, and I'll probably do that for the benefit of the group of just walking through the handout that everybody received. So the project, the Eastfield Mall, people are familiar with the Eastfield Mall. It's a complete redevelopment of that property into a more modern retail, service, restaurant, shopping experience. If you read the news, the mall has changed over the last couple of decades. It's not the more current way that people like to shop, like to pull up to the front door of the store that they're interested in going to, or the restaurant, get in, get out, move on. We live very fast-paced lives today that don't always marry up with walking through a mall to find the one store that you're looking for. Going through the handout, the cover page is really just an aerial image. It gives you a good visual of what the mall is today. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see JCPenney, the red brick building with the white roof, Macy's, the black roof, the mall, and the black kind of three-tiered roof in the back is the existing cinema building. As I said, all that will be demolished as part of the proposed project. On the second page of the handout, with the help of HFA, the architects on the team, it's a three-dimensional aerial perspective view, kind of looking from across Boston Road back towards the mall property. and you can see some of the smaller shops up close to Boston Road. The driveway in the center of the image is the existing signalized entrance to the mall property. And just some of the bullet facts, up at the top of the page. The mall today is approximately 520,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, and cinema space. This redevelopment will replace that 520,000 square feet with approximately 361,000 square feet. So we're losing about a third of the total building area that exists on the site today. As Anton pointed out, hundreds of new full and part-time employment opportunities from demolition through construction and through, the operation of the retail, restaurant, and service establishments. We were very careful in designing this project to design it in a way that it conformed to all of the underlying zoning requirements, bulk, dimensional, height, all of the zoning requirements. The reason that we're here, as Seth had mentioned, is the size of the development being over 150,000 square feet requires a special permit and the regional shopping center overlay. Part of the reduction in the building area allowed us to actually increase the open space on the site with the redevelopment. It's about 12% of the entire site is green space or open space today. And you'll see on the last page, if you haven't already snuck forward and snuck a peek, there's essentially no landscaping in the entire mall parking area today. And we're introducing, as required by zoning, parking lot landscaping to soften that, to provide shade. So with the reduction in the square footage of the building, it's allowing us to increase the open space to approximately 20%, which is a 2.9 acre increase in open space. This isn't my realm, but the big bullet on the right-hand side, the development will create an annual real estate tax increase of approximately $1.7 million per year. And then we'll flip to the last page, and then I'll come back to a couple of points. On the left-hand side, again, is a satellite aerial.
I'll just stop you briefly, sir, not to interrupt you, but Focus was able to put this up on the screen now, so it is both being demonstrated in the chamber as well as to the public at home.
Okay, thank you.
Carry on.
A satellite aerial view of the existing mall property and a rendered view on the right-hand side of the page, which shows the proposed redevelopment, the landscape islands within the parking field, trees, shade trees to provide shade, landscaping around all of the what are called out parcel pads, the restaurants and smaller shops lining Boston Road, where today it goes from a small buffer along the street to paved parking. And just to circle back, two things. I mentioned we perform the civil engineering, also the traffic engineering. The traffic study was submitted as part of the special permit application. DPW has reviewed it. And the real key takeaway is with the reduction in the overall size of the development, you would think that there was a proportionate reduction in the amount of traffic to be generated. And that's essentially true. The one little caveat is the introduction of the gas station. Gas stations, especially in the evening, have a little bit more of an uptick. It's usually passed by traffic, people on their way home. And that even with the uptick from the gas station, we're still essentially at or below what the mall, if it was completely re-tenanted, would generate for traffic. And then also DPW, City Engineering Department have reviewed the stormwater management report that was included with the application. And circling back again to the increase in pervious area, the increase in open space and landscaping, the inverse of that is we're decreasing impervious area, which is actually reducing stormwater runoff from the site. So a couple of true net benefits to the traffic, to the environment with stormwater management, with the redevelopment, and with the introduction of a smaller net building footprint and increase in landscape.
Thank you. At this time, I am going to let you know the proponent's time is currently at 19 minutes. There's 20 minutes allotted for the proponents at this time. At 20 minutes, we would normally move to the opponents, and then we would allow for any rebuttal if there were opponents. We would then allow for questions from the council for opponents and proponents. So at this time, are there any further individuals present to speak in favor? Please state your name and address for the record.
Xiomara Alban Delabato, 20 Cooley Drive, Wilbraham, Massachusetts.
Floor is yours.
All right, and I believe you said we're at 19, so I have...
You have 1 minute.
I have 60 seconds. All right, let me do this. All right, so hi, everyone. Good evening. So I am Xiomara, VP and Chief of Staff with the Western Mass Economic Development Council. As Seth mentioned earlier, we were asked to help facilitate the relocation aspect of this project, and that has definitely been a big lift and a big point of topic throughout this entire project. So a couple things that are really important for the council and anyone listening to know is that we've made a number of discoveries over the last 8 weeks or so, working one-on-one with each of the businesses. There are 43 businesses at the Eastville Mall at the moment. And our main objectives were to, one, relocate, so really deploy any type of relocation effort, two, secure funding. So that's a lot of conversations that we've been having with a number of stakeholders, et cetera. And I will mention who they are in a moment. And then three, with the goal of retention through all of these aspects, and that translates into technical assistance. So with that being said, at that first relocation effort, we have worked, like I mentioned, one-on-one with each of the businesses very thoughtfully, very strategically, and intentionally. For those who know me, Springfield is near and dear from my heart, to my heart. I always say I'm from Springfield, but I live in Wilbraham, so I'm very partial to the city and just the health and just, my family, et cetera. So we've worked with each of the tenants very carefully in getting to know their businesses, getting to know the different barriers, different gaps that they may have as we look for relocation. It is now okay to share for us that many of the tenants were paying rent at a very low market rate. So that has been the biggest hurdle for us in getting all the stakeholders together, in brainstorming, triaging together, on ensuring that we're creating a good plan so that businesses are sustaining after this relocation. So at that tenant relocation, just to give you an idea of where we are, we did bring in Homes Logic. So Homes Logic, our commercial broker, who's the representative for the tenant rep for all of the businesses as they go on in their venture in searching new sites. Of the 43 businesses, 70%, so about 30 of them are in active searches. So they're out, they've seen at least 2 sites, in constant communication with our tenants, with the landlords of the different locations to see if we're able to negotiate subsidized rent, and being able to accommodate in that measure as well. About 12% are already secured. So we have 5 businesses that already have a secured site. They are signed leases and/or they're at the final stage of a purchase and sale, which is really, really great. About 9%. So that equals to 4 businesses at the moment that just cannot move at the moment because of certain discoveries that have been made that I can't really disclose at the moment. So we're really working on triaging and just brainstorming on how to get them out of certain situations. Again, we want to make sure that they're set up for success wherever it is that they land. And then lastly, there are about another 9%, so 4 businesses that are just non-responsive. They're kind of doing their own thing and relying on their own resources, even with a number of contact and communication with the tenants because we're there at least 2 to 3 times a week in person. So that's really where we are with the tenant relocation portion. The second is the funding. And we have we've worked with a number of folks in the relocation or the funding aspect of this. So have spoken to 3 municipalities, so the city of Springfield in communication, the city of Holyoke, and as well as Wilbraham, which I actually need to talk to the Board of Selectmen in like 5 minutes and speak to them about this. With various asks at all levels, and as well as Senator Rep. Ramos, who put in an earmark as well. So all of these funding sources are currently pending. They're in communication. They're ongoing. This has been a very sensitive situation from the start. So it's important to say that. And then the last thing with the retention piece, so that third piece, we have a number of stakeholders that have really been part of this from the start. Mass Development has been offering a lot of their leasing gap coverage, any of their technical assistance support, the different finances that they have for commercial mortgages for those businesses that are purchasing, as well as Common Capital, who they're covering all the technical assistance for the businesses. We also have TD Bank, who's very actively working on financial assessments. We began those a week and a half ago. Again, now really digging deep into their books, into all the businesses' general ledgers, seeing where they are. And then the HOPE CDC and the Latino Economic Development Corporation have officially committed $20,000 for technical assistance, as well as specifically marketing and getting everyone in the e-commerce space. So really thinking outside the box on just going beyond just a brick and mortar store. So there's a lot that has been going on among all of this plan. So I will pause there because I'm definitely over 60 seconds.
Yeah, at this time, the proponent's time is expired, and so we will give equal time to any opponents, and at this time, we will move to the opponents.
Mr. President, if you would entertain a request, there are a few other supporters who are here, folks that many of you recognize that I'm sure have a maximum together 10 minutes if the council would entertain an extended 10 minutes.
So the rules of the council allow for 20 minutes for proponents, barring a motion from the floor. I can't extend the rules unilaterally. And so at this time, in accordance with the rules, we will move to the opponents. Councilor.
Mr. President.
I'd make a motion to give him another 10 minutes.
Councilor Fenton has made a motion to extend the time for the proponents by 10 minutes. That motion has been seconded by Councilor Davila. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Whitfield?
So if we hear from the opponents, don't they get another 10 minutes after?
The rules allow for 5 minutes of rebuttal, and then 5 minutes of rebuttal on each side, and then open to questions.
And then open to questions because there's questions. So I would prefer to give them 5 minutes and then use their rebuttal time to finish their conversation so we can get to the questions portion as well.
I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying you would prefer that the motion be to extend for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Or you're saying you would prefer the motion be not to go forward?
No, extend it for 5 minutes.
I'll revise my motion for 5 minutes.
Councilor Fenton has amended his motion to be a 5-minute extension for the proponents. At this time, is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Edwards. Is there any discussion on the motion to extend for 5 minutes?
Mr. President.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, sir. Just wondering, I'm not opposed entirely to 5 minutes extension for the proponents, but just to cover all the dots, does that mean that we're extending 5 minutes to the opponents as well? Or is that a whole separate different motion?
Councilor Fenton.
I would propose that motion at the appropriate time. If they need the time, of course, we'd make it equal.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Thank you.
Just making sure that we have uniformity as well, the whole process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Fenton.
Just to be transparent, I'm interpreting this motion as a suspension of the rules, and therefore unanimous consent would be required. At this time, is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to extend the proponent's time by 5 minutes.
On the motion to extend the time, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the vote is unanimous. Rules are suspended. 5 additional minutes will be granted to the proponents. Given the number of individuals I expect may be looking to testify, I'm going to ask folks to limit their comments to 1 minute, and I will warn you at that 1 minute mark. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Dinesh Patel. I'm 1500 Main Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, from Tower Square. I'm a developer in the South End Zone to all the way downtown. I invest the highest money also in Springfield downtown area. I'll be joining this team also, and I support this. And also I'm helping to the moving tenants to the Tower Square, some of the tenants right now as we speak. So we'll have full support in this project, and we'd like to be moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Are there any further proponents present? Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher DeVoy, 455 Breckwood Boulevard in Springfield and 1500 Main Street in Springfield. Founder and co-owner of Hot Table Restaurant. Grew up in Springfield, started our business in Springfield in favor of this project, the redevelopment of the Eastfield Mall that I attended several times as a kid. As an emerging brand, as we're trying to grow our company in the Northeast, this type of project where it's taking an enclosed mall to an outdoor project is the type of real estate we're looking for. Got to, briefly meet with these guys. I think it's going to really improve this section of Springfield. So I'm strongly in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeVoy. Are there any further proponents present? Please state your name and address for the record.
Lamont Clemens, 64 Thompson Street, Springfield, Massachusetts.
Floor is
Try to
yours.
make it pretty quick. Obviously, I think everybody knows me, and they know I'm pretty, I'm pretty involved in a lot of things. I obviously love economic development. I think the economic development is definitely the key to winning in many different realms. As we all know, the Eastfield Mall has been under some huge constraints for a period of time. I just, obviously see this as a huge win for the Eastfield Mall area. After really talking to developers and seeing the genuineness and what they really wanted to do as far as the area and really being unique to it. Obviously, I'm also a big component of people getting jobs, so I'm in construction for sure. So for sure, the construction jobs are going to be great. Also have a dermatology practice, Hillside Derm in Agawam, and Link Developers, which is one of the minority developers that are in the Springfield area. So obviously, being in this realm, just definitely ecstatic about the direction that they're going in. I definitely want to see this. Definitely want to see this happen. I don't know anybody really. Well, I don't know if anybody doesn't, but for sure, just it's something I think is really like a huge value add. So that's pretty much. I mean, I don't have too much to say. Obviously, everybody knows I'm in here. I've been doing a lot of business. I really want to aspire to be able to develop a project like this myself too. So obviously, seeing it happen and being able to have things occur in this area is definitely just a blueprint for what's going on. Also, very, very good to see in the city. I was obviously a big component of MGM. Got to paint that.
Mr. Clemens, you're at your 1 minute. Just a little warning.
And then loved what Dinesh did downtown with the Marriott. So that's just it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens. Are there any further proponents?
Final speaker ban and clean up, Mayor Hurley.
Thank you. Mayor Hurley, welcome back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have joined this team. I was with Eastfield Mall for a long, long time. They had struggled. Eastfield Mall is a dinosaur. Let's face it. And if you want to take what would be considered eggs and make it into a perfect cake, that's what they're doing. And I'm impressed with Anton. His company is a company that has always had a women and minority policy. They have basically offered $500,000 in rent, free rent. Well, so it's not rent. It's free use of the property until it closes. There have been, from the beginning, an exciting aspect to this that cannot be denied. $65 million to $80 million, potential housing development as part of it, commercial development. They'd have nothing to do with Sears. They are the answer to my prayers, and I think a lot of people in Springfield. And I urge this council to think about the fact that they are stepping forward in a very difficult time, and we need this project to breathe life into that part of Springfield. And it's going to add economic development spin-off like you read about. I don't live in Springfield anymore. I had to build a house to take care of my aunt out in East Long Meadow. But my heart will always be in Springfield. And I'm 100% behind this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Hurley. The proponents have 30 seconds left. Are there? Well, I'd like to check if there are, Judge Hurley, that's appreciated. I'd like to see if there are any further proponents present virtually or in person who would wish to offer any remarks.
Who
And
can do
seeing
better
none,
than me?
Seeing none.
Do I still
Seeing
get the
none,
30
Judge Hurley,
seconds?
you have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back here. I know all of you personally. It's an honor to be here on such a great opportunity for the city of Springfield as a whole. This isn't something where you've got people who want to gamble and there's moral or ethical issues to it. This is a no-brainer that gives this city a fresh breath of air after the COVID crisis and after a lot of downturns in the economy. This is something that's going to put us back on the map and will also send a strong message to any developers who want to come to the city of Springfield that Springfield is in the business of doing business. So I urge you to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Hurley. The proponent's time has expired. At this time, we will now move to the opponent's time. Are there any individuals present in person or virtually who wish to testify in opposition to the special permit? I'll say again, if there's anybody present in person or virtually who wishes to testify in opposition, we'd invite you forward at this time. And seeing no individuals present, Madam Clerk, have we received any written testimony?
We have not.
Madam Clerk, I would just simply state that presented to us this evening was a letter on Indian Orchard Citizens Council letterhead that appears to be in support of the development, and that's been distributed to all councilors. With that said, at this time, having heard from the proponents and the opponents, are there any questions from the council while the public hearing remains open? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple comments, lots of questions. I'm not going to say them all at once because I want to give other councilors a chance to speak. But I didn't have the opportunity to talk to Barry, unfortunately. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to any of you except Seth today for 15 minutes because that's all the time.
Councilor
that I
Whitfield,
have.
I apologize. Focus Springfield is reminding me if
I'm sorry,
councilors could deliver their remarks from the seated position directly into the microphone. We know that it is not the most natural assumption, but if we do not do that, the broadcast cannot pick up your remarks and folks at home cannot hear you.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. President. Let me make sure that my remarks can be picked up. So I don't know if they heard, but I'll say it again. I haven't had the opportunity to speak to Barry or anyone on your team except Seth, 15 minutes today. I didn't get any invites to any community meetings that you held, so I don't really know a lot about the project outside of the 15 minutes and the presentation that you presented today. I think that it's a beautiful, beautiful plan. It looks like Lee Mass to me. You know how that concept, the open space, the trees, the outdoor shopping, because I love going shopping, but I hate going through the mall. I really do. I just want to go to the store that I want to go to, or I want to eat where I want to eat without going through all that. So I think the plan is gorgeous. There was a couple comments made about spurring economic development in the city of Springfield. The same thing was said about MGM. I don't see that happen so much. Not to say that this will have the same effect, but we've heard that before. In addition, I heard information about your minority plan, and economic development along with equity is important to me. And so when I look across the room, I still see a lot of white males, but besides Lamont Clemens that came in and gave a testimony, he was a dear friend of mine. I'm glad that you did, probably helped a little bit, came in and talked about that. So I would like the owner, I have a couple questions for the owner. Yes. Or both.
I'll stand here as his counsel.
Okay, as is counsel. Thank you, Seth. And thank you for calling me today, because besides you, I would have no information except what was presented in the city council packet. So my question is, as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion, where do you stand on that as far as your construction policy, as far as your hiring policy, and things like that? That's important to me.
So thank you for the question. And so we have mandated in all of the requests for bids and requests for proposals that go out that the minimum threshold be 12, right? 10%, right? All fitting within the category of minority and women-owned. So we were very clear coming in. We've been very clear throughout the process. Why did I think 12? Doesn't matter, it's 10. So 10% as that mandated minimum across the board for all the activities that go on at the project.
And in addition to that, what is your procedure with mentorship? So a lot of times, and I'll explain it to you.
Repeat that?
Oh, mentorship. A lot of times we get a lot of the, bigger developers come into our city, develop properties, and don't give a lot back to the community. And so we have emergent developers in the city of Springfield too that can benefit from learning how to become a big developer. I see a lot of the same players in the room all the time coming for the big contracts, yet I don't see any mentorship opportunities. And maybe since you're from the area more than some others, you would be first to create a mentorship program for emergent developers to learn the process, to grow, to make the connections and the contacts, to figure out how to put investment opportunities together to scale up. Is that something that you will be willing to entertain?
So I'll take you one step further, because you said that you guys were friends.
We are.
Right here with everyone. If you can convince one to work with me, then
I don't have to convince Lamont. He's here for a
Okay.
reason.
Well, then, what resonated with me is he said he wanted to be involved in the project, and so it sounds like we're good, and we will figure it out together.
He is a really good lawyer, too.
Oh, so I didn't know that. But anyways, we share counsel. Sorry.
So I'm going to ask that the folks that are delivering remarks deliver them from the podium one at a time, and that they speak directly into the microphone so that the broadcast at home can hear them.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So the answer is yes. I think we've now accomplished that, and you have my commitment. I don't know what the program will look like because we just started it,
Well, we can always sit down and have a talk.
but so here we go. So yes.
we can have a talk, because I haven't, like I said, spoken to anyone on this project yet.
You will get sick of seeing me, I promise. So I
Okay,
will come and sit down and we will talk, and that will be a program. I don't know what it will look like, but we'll figure it out and consider it done.
Because outside of Lamont, there's many other developers of color that don't get the opportunities. Lamont knows how to work a room, but there's other developers that do not. Developers in the BIPOC and women-owned and veteran disabled communities that don't know how to create these connections and even how to scale up at all. So if you're willing to have a conversation like that, that would be very helpful.
So beyond having the conversation, I will commit that I will not only implement that, but I will do it personally. And I think that for me, just so you know, it's not something I left having to do. I look forward to it, and I promise you I'll do it passionately because it means a lot to me. So consider it done. We'll work together and figure out what it looks like, but I promise you you'll be more than impressed.
That was a great answer. I want to clap on it. That was a great answer. And then finally, I just want to ask you some financial questions. Have you obtained any funding from the city of Springfield for your project as of yet? Or are you in negotiations for funding with the city of Springfield for funding as of yet?
We have not. We are exploring what the possibilities are. Right now, the only financing is ours, but we have no assistance, and we actually don't even have a full plan, but we're exploring all the options currently.
Exploring the options, okay. Because the way some of the funding is spent in the city of Springfield, I used to work in the finance department for the city of Springfield. I also am on the ARPA subcommittee, and this isn't really of your concern, but I do have concerns about it, and I want things to be open and transparent from the beginning. I don't want surprises or anything to come up down the pike. So I'm just telling you that as a developer. I am in the business of exposing those type of things, but I think that you are a man of integrity. From what I see, this is a great project. Your willingness to even incorporate some of the ideas that I suggested shows your character, and we definitely need to do something with Eastville Mall and across the street. I just thank you for your candidness and your openness to answer the questions that I have, and I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any further questions or comments from the council while the hearing remains open? At this time, we'll go to Councilor Govan.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you, Onyx developers, Seth, and the whole team for coming back out here. And he is right. You have been out here all the time. He probably should get a house out here. But I think that, you know, this is a great project, and I'm excited about it, it being in my ward, of course. I think I like the way that you all approached it as far as speaking to the neighborhood, speaking to, you know, the tenants at the Eastville Mall, and trying to find ways to make sure that everybody comes out okay. They did come to the neighborhood council, and they did present. The neighborhood council board voted unanimously to support the project. So we are in support of it. We do have some concerns about the tenants that are still at the mall. And then I always think about my seniors that walk the mall. You know, every morning they have the senior walking club that won't be able to do in the new mall. But so the tenants, and maybe this question might be for Xiomara, and just to confirm that the tenants who are currently there, I think there's 30 that are left that are not, haven't been placed, haven't had, a finished product, so to speak, for their relocation. If you could just talk a little bit more about that. If I could, I guess, maybe be certain that they're going to be, you know, getting what they need as far as, financial support after. I know that Onyx has, graciously afforded them the rent, they're not having to pay rent. And even I think they've eliminated some of their debt at the mall, which is, amazing for a developer. So I'm excited about that, but I really am concerned about the future of the current tenants that are there that haven't been placed yet. So if you could just say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that has really been an ongoing journey, and I describe it as a journey because it feels like that for everyone involved. A lot of the businesses, we've had really honest conversation of what their finances look like, really looked at their general ledgers, as I mentioned before, because some businesses just haven't done that. So we've literally had to start at square one with just the fundamentals of record keeping for their goods or services that they provide. And this is where like TD Bank and Common Capital specifically have been able to invest a lot of this work. And mind you, this is all in kind for any of the players that have been in this process, including the work with the EDC. So we've worked closely with TD Bank and Common Capital for them to invest in that level of financial assessment and financial awareness and education for the businesses. When it comes to the actual like liquid cash or working capital rather, for some of the businesses, as I mentioned earlier, there have been ongoing conversations with some of the municipalities. And currently, there's a current ask with Wilbraham, anywhere between $25,000 to $50,000, because there's about 4 businesses that are looking to stay on that corridor. And Wilbraham does have a number of different vacancies open. As I mentioned, the state, through Rep. Ramos, put an earmark for $150 as a mini grant. If that does pass, that's kind of like a retroactive award to help alleviate anything during that relocation portion. And then again, ongoing conversations with the city of Springfield and also the city of Holyoke, because we have a number of businesses that are looking to move to Holyoke. And we will be meeting with Agawam because there's one business that secured a spot in Agawam. So it's just an ongoing conversation with all of our municipalities in a very formal manner to really look at the landscape, look at what makes sense, because businesses are kind of scattered throughout those towns. And yes, so we're moving along with those conversations, and we are also leveraging the conversations or the options with mass development. Also, the various state grants that have come through. Common Capital is serving as the technical assistant sponsor for the grants. So again, all of that work happening in kind. And I believe that we have about 85% of the current Eastfield Mall businesses that have submitted applications already through Common Capital, and that's at $75,000 grant with MGCC right now. So any new grant that comes through, we are supporting all of that.
Okay.
And most recently, Mass Hire.
All right, and they're getting technical assistance in writing the grants?
Yes.
Because I know a lot of the businesses don't have that capacity. So I think those are my concerns. Again, you know, I grew up in the mall, the same as everyone else. It is time for a change, and I think it's a good project. So, you know, I'm going to be calling you all the time, Xiomara.
Oh, yeah.
You
Everyone
know,
can give
just
me
to
a call.
continue, because I have a few businesses that are at the mall now that call me, and that's why I have to call you, just to continue. Another thing, and this might be for the developers or for Seth, is the housing component. You know, I think when we had our meeting at the Indian Orchard Citizens Council and at the mall too, a lot of the residents that live outside of the mall, behind the mall, they're very concerned that if there is any housing there, that it's not rental housing. They want it to be, you know, ownership housing. So I'm thinking that's something that we need to make sure, you know, we have attached to make sure that doesn't happen in the future.
Yes, so there is a desire to have a residential component to this development at a later phase, simply because of the demand for residential development within the community. I want to remind the council that that's not before you here tonight in this aspect of the special permit, and as we move forward, because we need this approval to begin demolition, and the site plans further developed for the back parcels, which is where the residential and a potential commercial component are being contemplated, we would have to go through the municipal process for approvals and would be before the city again on that at a future date. So that's the desire, but there are no firm plans on residential. And we hear you loud and clear on the type of residential development that is desired, and I believe that's consistent with the developer's desire for the project.
Great, thank you. I think those are all my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the owner I'd like to speak to, or the person representing him. My concern basically is with the actual tenants. I do know, I've heard from some of the tenants over there as far as the minority tenants over there. And you're talking about the people in the kiosks and in areas in that area. What are you guys doing to address that? Because I do know a lot of them are still looking and they're still having issues.
Maybe Xiomara could better address that question.
Anything with the tenants, I can answer. So we have, I believe there are 7, or I have to look at my list, 6 or 7 kiosks. Of those kiosks, one already moved, decided to go back to a flea market type of location. Another one secured a kiosk actually in Tower Square, I believe, for an equivalent price of rent for that kiosk. And then a couple others already had a kiosk at the Holyoke Mall, so they've just been able to combine some of their goods and just maximize more of their time at the Holyoke Mall. And then we have one other kiosk that is fully going online. So we've been working with just the setup of e-commerce, their marketing strategies, on ensuring that there's a strong e-commerce plan for them. And any of the kiosks or any of the businesses that offer is out at the table, and we're working with many of them on getting them into the online sales aspect, just because the majority have not tapped into the online space for their goods and services.
Okay, and how about the other 23?
Well, 30, so there's 43 businesses total. 30 of them are actively in search. And again, those are like physical searches. And we have approximately, I'd say, 8 businesses at the current moment that are either non-responsive and or they're just not ready to even talk about relocation. But everyone else is in movement. Either we're looking at e-commerce, we're looking at physical space, and we already have 5 that have secured locations, like contracts in place.
So out of the 30, you're saying you probably got about 7?
Of kiosks? Was that the question?
Oh, there's only 7 kiosks from what you explained to me.
Yes.
But there's 30 individuals who are going to be misplaced. You said that, so they're still just guesstimating, and roughly they're still, say, I don't know, around like 23. The majority of the people there, they're still, you're working with them. Fingers crossed. But what are the actual finger cross things? Do we got them things down at the Tower Square? What do we have? Do we have anything in place? Do we have something more concrete as far as answers?
Well, our tenants have been looking at a variety of places. So as I mentioned, Homes Logic is the commercial broker who's the tenant rep for all of them. So we've been looking at Tower Square, we've been looking at Gasoline Alley, we've been looking at different places within other larger locations. So there's been we have a very robust list of sites that folks have been looking at. And we've been really strategic throughout the placement because not every business would make sense in a specific spot if they really require heavy foot traffic. So we've been really thoughtful and strategic on placement because we want to make sure that business is continuing to thrive in the new space. So that has been part of the strategy. I mean, I can absolutely share the list with the council if people are really interested on just what the actual real estate locations that we've been looking at. Happy to share whatever information folks need. And even if it's the status, yeah.
I do know when they were speaking way back about Tower Square, being able to relocate some of the individuals out there. So that was something I know that they were scratching as far as an idea. And this was like a while ago. Is there something that can be more concrete as far as Tower Square relocation? Why can't they relocate to the Tower Square?
Oh, they can. They absolutely can. It all has to do with, again, does it make sense for the businesses? Where's there going to be really strong outcome of where they're going to settle in the new spot, and also ensuring that the price makes sense with everyone's budget. That has been the most jarring part for some of our tenants because the Eastfield Mall tenants were previously paying well below market value. So
yes, and that's kind of as far as in my full-time job, I do understand why the rep petitioned for funding, but that still isn't something guaranteed when it comes from the state. But where I have where it kind of where out of the 30 out of the 23 people, see, a lot of times what happens, so just like the MGM, MGM had a lot of promises about minorities and things like that, and it was all good at first, and now it isn't. So I'm always cautious at first because everyone, and I'm not accusing you guys, but it's always good to do your due diligence first. Where I start kind of getting my spidey senses that out of the 23 individuals, are you explaining to you coming to the body and saying, in your belief, do you think all 23 individuals are happy at a point where I believe that they would have come and somebody out of that 23 had opposition. But what happens in the minority community, a lot of us, you know, a lot of us, we're not informed or we don't get the information. But out of the 23, I am 100% positive that at least one of them would have came in opposition if somebody would have said something. So when everyone, you know, just like the State House, when it came to the Newport law with tobacco, everyone said it was bad and there was no opposition. And then when they passed the law, everybody was mad. So like this, it always red flags me when everyone says they're for it and then there's no opposition. Where is the opposition? The opposition, they have 23 individuals who are still looking for locations and no one is here to say anything about it. That's kind of like where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe they weren't informed. Because I do know there are some individuals who do have issues. I know there's situations as far as our from the city's processing, getting people information. We've occurred with that where they don't know, like abutters and different things. So I just don't want a project to be pushed through and then all of a sudden people around the people who are actually who are going to be affected, they weren't properly informed, they weren't properly vetted, they didn't get their fair shake based on their inability to understand the due process. So were out of the actual tenants, were they notified? Why aren't any of the tenants here?
So, Councilor Brown, all tenants have been notified of the project and what's happening. In fact, that was one of the priorities early on. And Councilor Govan mentioned seeing Brian Kaplan from Onyx out here quite a bit. And part of what Brian's been doing out here is meeting regularly with tenants on site, giving them updates on the process and timelines and advance notice of the legal notices that will eventually go out on this project. Xiomara has been part of those discussions as well. So while I'm not certain if you're speaking about notice of this hearing here tonight, I don't think there are any tenants who would say that they weren't informed and notified by the developer over the past several months due to the number of information sessions that have happened right there on site at the mall.
No, would you say all the tenants are you saying all the tenants are happy?
I couldn't speak to whether they're happy or not. I mean, I think this is certainly, for some of them, it presents a challenge. As Xiomara mentioned, the rents were high by the prior owner. They were highly subsidized. And so it's hard to find another location that subsidizes rent in that manner. And so they're, you know, and any move is challenging. So, but I've attended several of those meetings and generally the tenants have been very understanding, cooperative, have had questions. We've done our best to answer them. And so, you know, I'm sure some of them would prefer that status quo and that the mall stays and that they not need to find a new space, I'm sure. But I don't think any of them would fairly say that that the developer has not been cooperative or that they have been uninformed over the past several months.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your answers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. We're going to go to Councilor Whitfield in person and then Councilor Hurst virtually.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to ask Xiomara some questions. First, I want to say thank you for your dedication and hard work to helping the small businesses. I've spoken to many of them, and they are happy that they have someone to help them out. You and Home Logic, Freddie Freddie Lopez, yeah, Freddie Lopez, organization, because sometimes small businesses like that are left out in the cold. And so my question is, you said Rep. Ramos put in an earmark for $150,000 for mini grants. And so we know that the state budget time is right now, and the amendments are going in right now. And if it's cut out, is there a backup on the Senate side to put in an earmark as well?
We're having conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to secure that. Because, you know, there's funding out there on the state level that should go to small businesses, because as we know, small businesses become large businesses, right, Mr. Onyx?
Right.
I don't know if that's your name, but that's what that's what I can remember. And you were a small business owner at once, and now you're growing and developing. Glad to see it. Glad to see it. I used to party in Amherst, but I didn't really, I didn't go to school out there or anything, but I went to the parties at the school. So just want to make sure that we secure that. In addition, I just wanted to say thank you very much. I know your professionalism. I know that you're there. I know that you're working with the small businesses, and they say it. It is hard, you know, change is hard, but we also know the cost of doing business, and that's why as small business owners, we need to do our due diligence where things stand, because technically and legally, you don't have to do anything. The owners don't have to do anything. No one has to do anything. They can just say, well, we're closing the doors. It happens all the time. And that's it. Find new jobs for your employees, find a new location on your own. So just this help means a lot to me as a city council personally for the small business owners throughout the city of Springfield. The whole city is my ward, so I appreciate it. But I do have a question for Tim. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Tim Sheehan. Sorry, I couldn't think of your last name, Tim.
Director Sheehan, just because you haven't testified yet this evening, could you state your name and address for the record?
Tim Sheehan, Chief Development Officer, 26 Eckington Street, Springfield, Mass.
Thank you, Director. My question to you is, this is the type of support that I would love to see happen, and support given from the city of Springfield for the small businesses. Is there any support that we are giving or that we can give to help the relocation of the small businesses?
Counselor, I'm pleased. Well, first of all, let me say this is a great economic development opportunity for the city of Springfield, and for this particular site to have such a significant footprint of retail and really reestablish that portion of Boston Road as a retail center for the entire city. But back to your question, I'm happy to say to you, yes, we have been working with a handful of businesses that have settled on the Springfield site. And I want to impart this to the counselors. This is a business-driven decision. They are the ones who are deciding where they want their business to go. It's not the city's position to say, you're coming to Springfield and we're going to locate you here.
Right.
So those businesses that have committed to a Springfield location are in the process of figuring out what their numbers are. Okay. And we are working with them. The city has a small business development fund. We actively work with small businesses to engage them in coming to Springfield. These businesses I look at as reinvesting in Springfield, and we would be happy to work with them going forward.
That's fantastic. Me and you have been battling, but this one...
We're on the same side on this one, Counselor.
We're on the same side of the fence on. And that just made me lose my train of thought. The old age does kick in sometimes, but I am happy. I am happy to hear that there is support out for the small businesses in Springfield and those staying in Springfield, because we want to keep them here, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you know or if Seth, is there any any opportunities for small businesses, local businesses to be on the new development site? Thank you, Tim.
I can address that. The answer is yes. And if you consult the plans that were provided, you'll see a section of the development that has a series of very small, approximately 700 square foot storefronts. And that's done intentionally. That's designed
Okay.
to have potential for local tenants, smaller businesses that may not need the footprint. And so that's targeted for local, smaller businesses to be part of the project. The challenge, candidly, is that those who are there now, the project's going to take about 2 years. And so a small business can't just shut down and wait. They usually have to relocate, and then to relocate twice is a challenge. So we acknowledge that it would be a real challenge potentially for folks to wait and come back. But if they expand, if they want multiple locations, if they've had a track record of success there, the developer will welcome them with open arms, presuming that the finances are work, but those spaces are designed to encourage that type of tenant to be part of the project, because it's the developer has recognized that unless the community embraces it, it's not going to have the success that they want. So they're intentionally thinking about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then finally, I just want to say, we right now can't compete with our neighboring communities, and we're the third largest city in the Commonwealth, and that makes no sense. But we cannot compete with even Chicopee, West Springfield, and our neighboring towns. And we have to go outside Holyoke, right? We have to go outside of Springfield to invest our dollars, and I love to reinvest in my own city. And this project makes so much sense to me. I love this project. Mr. Patel, you're somebody else I want to meet and talk to. So I want to get all your cards later, but we need to be able to compete with our surrounding communities. We need to create more jobs. We need to keep folks in our own community so they don't want to go somewhere else. And I think that I have to support this project. Like, there's no way that I can't. And so I just want to thank you for being creative with the design. I want to thank you. I'm going to call you Mr. Onyx until I figure it out. I want to definitely work with you on creating a great mentorship program for the emerging developers in the city of Springfield. And thank you for your willingness to do that. I think it's your spirit and your genuine, you feel like an honest person to me. Like, I feel that with you, and I'm a good judge of character, and I feel that with you. So I just want to thank you again for taking the risk, because I know it's a big risk for you as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. The hearing remains open. Councilor Hurst.
Mr. President, just a couple of quick questions for the petitioner. In looking at the diagram, how many storefronts are we looking at, or retail stores are we looking to put here?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Kaplan with Onyx Partners. So right now there are 17 buildings on the site. With the final tenant mix still up for kind of the plans are still being finalized, there could be anywhere from 20 to 30 tenants depending on the final layouts.
Okay, so 20 to 30 tenants. Do we have any idea? So is there anything else outside of those tenants that we're talking about in this particular project? Because everybody keeps asking me, what is going there? What is going there? What is going there? I still have very little clue looking at the diagram. I mean, it looks like now you're telling me that, excuse me, there are roughly 20 retail stores that are going to go there. Is there anything else that is going to exist on this footprint?
So it's
just
not
retail
just
stores?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not just retail. It's also restaurants, services, some light office uses potentially that zoning allows. So it's not just retail. It will be a number of uses. The other uses that are mentioned, residential and other commercial uses, those are later phases that we are planning for and will need to come back in front of the council at that time.
Okay, so right now we're planning how many retail stores and how many actual food stores, for lack of a better word?
So our plans say about roughly, I believe it's 6 or 7 restaurants.
Restaurants.
You know, we also want, when I say restaurants, it's fast casual, sit down, quick service as well. that combination and that mix is going to be worked out as the plans move forward. But we do have commitments from a few restaurants, some of which we can't announce. I know that in the media we've seen Chick-fil-A has been announced, but there are a number of other restaurants that we are working with and hope to announce soon.
Okay, so 6 to 7 restaurants and roughly 20 retail stores, and you can't announce what those retail stores are as of yet. Is that retail or restaurants, correct?
Correct, and that's not, we've had a number of conversations, we have a number of commitments from tenants, but we can't speak on those for various reasons. Some are publicly traded companies that don't allow us to make those announcements until they've announced it to their shareholders. So we do have a number of commitments. We're excited to announce those soon. As you've seen, there have been a few in the media already, and so we will be announcing those shortly. Our agreements don't allow us to announce them just yet.
Got it. And what is the time frame on the development here?
So once we have our approvals in place, we're expecting 2 years of construction from start to finish. That's demolition through opening. Obviously, with lead times and the nature of the economy as it is, some businesses may not open all at the same time, but the goal is to have the majority of businesses open at the same time in roughly 2 years.
Okay. Question for, I believe, Tim from the city. Tim Sheehan. How's it going, Tim?
Good. How are you, Counselor?
Quick question. Quick question for you, and I think Councilor Whitfield sort of hit on it. Has there been any discussions in terms of any city funding being used to support this particular property? And if so, what have those entailed?
There's been some preliminary discussions about resources that could, and they're not necessarily just city resources. There's been discussion about state funding as well. And most of the dialogue has been around a potential tax agreement.
Okay, which will have to come back before the city council as well, correct?
That is correct, Counselor.
So has there been any funding with respect to ARPA in terms of that going to to the developer and or the small businesses, which certainly I probably would be much more in agreement with as opposed to the large developers? Has there been any discussion around the use of ARPA?
There has not been, Counselor. There would be a challenge on eligibility around this because of the issue with COVID impact.
Okay.
It's a new development that's happening as opposed to something that was pre-existing that had sustained an economic impact.
Got it. Okay. All right. So good to know. So even if there are potential tax breaks that are going to occur, they have to come before us at some point in time anyways.
That is correct.
That's accurate. Okay. So I guess the only other question that I have would be regarding regarding the small businesses. And I don't, it might be for Ciomata. Actually, no, probably for Phil Droney. Is Phil in? Is Phil on the line?
Counselor?
Phil, to Councilor Brown's point, and I think he makes a very valid point in terms of actual notice and folks who might have been in opposition as it relates to the small businesses. Did we notify any of those small businesses that this, just out of courtesy, I know they're not the owners of the actual properties or probably the abutters of this particular property, but were they notified at all that this particular hearing was going to occur and that this might be an opportunity to present to the council their perspective on the assistance that they have been receiving? Because to Councilor Brown's point, I was just at an event yesterday and heard from one of those particular tenants, and they were still waiting to hear from the, I believe it's the Latino Development Council, as to what their next steps were. And so they felt as though they were in the dark And certainly it would make sense that they would have been here today, but my fear is that they probably had no idea.
Counselor, as far as the special permit requirements for legal notification, the owner is notified, and then obviously everyone within 300 feet is notified. But individual tenants within the building, I don't believe were notified. I think notification was obviously sent to the neighborhood councils as well. I think it went to Indian Orchard as well at 16 acres. But the individual tenants, I don't believe would have been notified as part of the special permit requirement.
Okay, so they would have no idea that if they wanted to communicate some of their frustrations, that they would have had to do so this evening prior to us approving this special permit.
I mean, the only other requirement is, I mean, it is legally advertised, but I don't believe the individual tenants would have been notified.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to say it certainly sounds like it's going to be an exciting project for the whole city. And I, for one, was happy to hear that the developer, Mr. Onyx, who I think will be known as from now on, happy to hear that he and his family have ties to the city. But I especially like, sir, that you want your mother at the grand opening. That struck a chord with me. So that made me feel favorably about your intentions. I do have a couple of questions. And following up with Councilor Hurst, I think we all want a sense of what might be coming and what will be there, because people, when you tell them that there's going to be the Eastfield Mall, there's going to be a new development, they all want to know what's going to be there. And I have heard many people have an vested interest or are very interested in having something like a Trader Joe's there. Is that something that's being considered?
So so first of all, to answer your question, we have been and continue to talk to a whole bunch of different tenants, local, regional, and national tenants. I could probably say, if I remembered, I don't know specifically, Trader Joe's, to Brian's point, there are some folks that we've shared openly that we have spoken to. I don't remember that Trader Joe's is one. Over the last 30 years, we have and have worked with, well, we have over 350 tenants that we've done business with. We have almost 500 that we've worked with. And so we've really talked to everyone in all different types of restaurant, entertainment, medical use, all the uses that we think make the most sense for the project. And we continue those conversations regularly. So as soon as we have full commitments from the tenants, and we're in a position that we can share them, trust me, we look forward to being able to share all of that information, because we're as excited as everyone else. So anything we can, we have, and anything that we will be able to, we'll share it immediately.
Yes, and another wonderful point that Councilor Whitfield brought up about your mentorships. Would that include any of our high schools or any of our, say, vocational students? Is that something that would be part of that plan?
It's actually a great point, and after we made the deal to put the program in place, Doug, who's been with me and actually the brains behind all of our operations, came up and showed me the local vocational school and their landing page. So I can promise you he's already made a note. We'll be reaching out to them, to the local high schools, really whoever wants to be a part of embracing the project within the community. We look forward to that. So it doesn't just have to be people that want to learn how to do these projects from a development standpoint. It can be construction and the trades. And when I tell you, there's nothing more meaningful than having the entire community embrace the entire project from every aspect. And so we are committed to doing that. And we will see that all the way through for this project and anything else we do. Promise you.
And I don't know if this is your area of expertise, but I'd like to know how long the businesses will be helped, the businesses that have to relocate, especially if there's obviously some of them that didn't get notice of the meeting. I don't know if you can answer that, but that would be something I'd like to know. How long are they going to be helped?
Hi, Counselor, how are you?
Good, how are you? Sometimes, sorry, dental work today. a little under the weather. Yeah.
Oh, man, I hope you feel better.
Thank
So
you.
we are continuing to support the tenants throughout this entire time that they're at the Eastfield Mall, and with the expectation of also providing technical assistance once they're at their new locations to ensure the retention and the success of their businesses.
Well, what I mean, is there any timeline for the businesses that you stop helping them, or do you help them into the completion of them moving somewhere?
So, yes, so we are helping them from the moment that we've been in contact to the time that they are physically and/or virtually set up in their new spot. And still, like I mentioned, providing that technical assistance post new location for any technical assistance that they may need.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment is that that this plan of the investment of at least $65 million in the city of Springfield, I think it's important that we pass this tonight, because I think if we don't pass a program like this, it sends a message, and former Mayor Hurley referred to this, that Springfield is not business friendly, and Springfield is not open for business when other communities around us are. So I think that it's very important for the council to pass this tonight, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. We have a number of councilors that wish to continue to be heard. I want you all to know that I see all of you, and I have a queue here. At this time, we are going to go to Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening to all of you. Again, my apologies, I'm unable to join you today's at the chambers today. But I do have some questions, Mr. President. If I may, can I start with Tim Sheehan, please?
Director Sheehan. While Director Sheehan makes his way to the podium, just so you know, there are 6 of you in the queue. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Good evening, Councilor.
Good evening. I think I just got my hint to be quick. Director, good to see you, sir. Just a good question. I want to make sure that I saw this correctly. I think it was in either today's news or recently. This project is bound to generate $1.7 million in tax revenue for the city. Is that correct?
Yes.
Give or take?
Yes, give or take.
$1.7 million. Okay. Now, did you say something about a TIF before?
Oh, there's been preliminary discussions about a potential tax agreement on the project.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Director. Good question. Mr. President, I have a question, and my apologies. I'm going to use the word Mr. Onyx. That's somehow sticking also in my head. Or a representative from Onyx. I just have some general questions.
If the principal could step forward and please restate your name for the record.
Please.
Okay, it's actually pretty easy. It's Anton.
Anton. Good evening, Anton. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Anton, I just want to give you what I understand this project to be, and you tell me if I'm correct. So I believe this is going to be, we talked about 72 new buildings, correct?
Correct.
Give or take. And this is going to have a plethora of services. We're going to have drive-up windows, medical offices, vet services, gas stations, amusement locations, restaurants, correct?
Correct.
Just out of curiosity, is there going to be any kind of address in the food deserts? Is there going to be any kind of supermarkets?
Supermarket. So there is a number of people who we've spoken with who are interested in grocery, supermarket specific. I don't know that we have a commitment for that, but obviously there will be a food component outside of the restaurants. I don't know exactly where we stand on that. I think they're just ongoing conversations.
Okay, because I know we have other supermarkets in the area, but okay, just dotting my I's and crossing my T's here, Anton. Now, I believe that this is going to increase the open space from 12% to 20%. Is that correct?
That's correct. Plus or minus, but yes.
Okay, and how is that going to be done? Does that mean it's going to be more trees or more parking lot?
So there's more open space, there's more trees. I mean, the landscaping that we will do with the islands, with the open space, relative to what's there now, if you just look at what's now the existing building and then all of the parking, our plan that we've shared has the building set in a configuration with the parking fields, but then all of the outside areas, we've incorporated that green space.
Gotcha. Now, Anton, are you the developer?
Am I what?
The developer.
I'm the developer and I'm hard of hearing. I apologize.
That's okay. I'm going to. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
Excellent. And did you say you're from Wilbraham originally?
I'm sorry. I grew up in Amherst.
Yeah,
Amherst.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am not feeling too well, so I'm kind of
Okay.
like, you might hear me a little funny.
Sorry.
Okay, so good, Anton. So, Anton, I just want to make a comment and ask you a question, and then, but I do think Councilor Govan a little while ago did mention about the elderly and the walking. And as you might be fully aware, the walking club at the East Fillmore has been a tradition for many years. Not to sound sentimental, but a long time ago in a galaxy far away, I used to be a security guard at the East Fillmore. And that was many, many moons ago. And the walking club was really a thing. And my humble suggestion would be that you guys, in a token effort of keeping some continuity, that you integrate, I don't know how, I'm just thinking outside of the box here, a walking trail / court so that the elderly can still continue to go to the site and exercise and do the walking. I don't know where, I don't know how, just my humble opinion, Anton, that would be a very good gesture in my opinion. Now, Anton, a question for you. As my duty as a city councilor and the representative of the people, oftentimes we're told that this project is coming in, and let me say that this is a great project. But let's talk about jobs, if I could. So you talked there were 2-year construction period. If this gets approval today, when are you guys moving forward plans for the mall?
So we would be looking to start the first phase of construction within the next 90 to 100 days. And again, the entire project is contemplated in different phases, but with the approvals that we would require to move forward, it would be our intention once we had secured pricing and the right folks, I guess no earlier than July on certain aspects, but we would be looking on certain buildings that are vacant where we could begin construction as soon as we had approvals to do that.
Okay, I see. Okay, good. Now, Anton, can you tell me your plans? A 2-year construction project. Can you tell me your plans about career opportunities for city residents during the actual construction process?
So your question was the ability for local construction companies to be a part of our process. Is that the question?
Correct. Let me tell you. Oftentimes we are told, "Oh no, absolutely, everybody's going to apply. Things are going to be great. Things are going to be hunky dory," but then we are told nobody wants to work. I don't buy it, but I want to hear from you. What is your plan to ensure construction of career opportunities to local residents, particularly not only companies, but also to your youth, like Councilor Walsh was saying a little while ago. Call me crazy, Anton, but this is a local project. It should be local hands building this.
So totally agreed. There's 2 parts to that. So just on the construction side, for 2 reasons, all the groups that we've reached out to are local. One, it makes, for people to travel out to Western Mass, it's somewhat cost prohibitive. So just from a financial perspective, it makes the most sense for the the local-owned businesses to be here and to work on the project. At the end of the day, it is an open bid process, but I can tell you from early indications based on all of the trade numbers that we've gotten, all of the folks for phase one in one building, there were 9 bidders. All 3 of the final bidders who we're meeting with, they're all local. So just from a logistical and a financial standpoint, it makes the most sense that I think this pattern would continue, that we end up seeing the folks doing the work are all local for those reasons, in addition to the fact that I agree with you. It is the right thing to do. It just happens to work out that it makes the most sense for these folks to be doing the work, and that's the way it seems to be playing out.
Right. Well, Antonio, I do thank you for that candid answer. And like I say, my sir, just doing my duty as a counselor. Again, my experience, my humble experience as business and being in the council, that we hear things like the one you just say, and then we tell nobody wants to work. You're a local guy in all essence, even though you're in Amherst, I'm still Western Mass. So I remember when the casino was being built, and I used to see the construction guys all the time, breakfast and lunch. Downtown was hopping. It was bustling. It was just good place. It was a lot of good activity. I would love to see that in that area, because that area is really, really suffering. But Anton, I thank you for that. I do, Mr. President, thank you, Anton, for your help. Mr. President, just quick 2 last questions. Do we have anybody representing the mall today?
No.
No. Okay. Well, maybe Tim Sheehan can answer my last question, if I could. Sorry, Tim. Thank you, Anton. Tim, sorry, I wasn't gonna just popped up in my head.
No problem.
Tim, so question, in your, I know you don't represent the mall, but just in your opinion, how long has the mall been in artificial, what is that called, in artificial life?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
How long has it been in what is that called, struggling? How long has the mall been struggling?
I think you can easily say that over the past decade plus, that the mall has slowly economically deteriorated.
Right. And that's because of a number of things, market influences, you name it.
That's correct. I mean, just the mall concept as a development approach to retail is no longer favored by the public.
I do understand. Now, Tim, the last thing that I would suggest that I'm hoping that you could take this back to the mayor, and I will send the mayor an email myself. This is a good project. From an economic standpoint, I have no other, what's the word I'm looking for? No, it would be crazy to vote against this, because if the mall closes, it's going to be worse than we have now. And we have the potential of raising plus or minus $1.7 million in revenue for the city. And it's going to attract more jobs than we have. And the people, it is my understanding, the 40 plus or so of tenants that are there now, although it is sad, they are going to be, they're being helped to be relocated, and the Western Mass Economic Council is working with them. So you guys are doing, and the mall and Onyx is doing the right thing. The one thing I will urge you, I'm going to urge the mayor, is to put the, what is that old saying goes, Tim? Put your money where your mouth is, something like that. The city must help the tenants financially to relocate as well. We do have money. We have money available. I'm not saying we're going to get a store away. Help them.
We indicated that, Councilor.
It will show, in my opinion, the council, if approved this today with the wisdom of this wise body. But to me, I think it will show that the mayor's office is really, I'm not saying they're not serious, because I'm sure they're very serious about this. That's not what I'm saying. That they're really a true partner of this. And it would, I think it will speak volumes if we're able to financially assist the tenants with some money. I don't know how much to help them in the transition of locating in the place. And I know they haven't been paying rent for a while, I get that. But I think it will be a good thing for them. Tim, I will give you my last 30 seconds to answer if you wish, and then those are my comments, Mr. President.
I appreciate that, Councilor. As I indicated to Councilor Whitfield, we are working with businesses from the mall right now that have determined on a site in Springfield. And we are looking at financial assistance for those businesses. And we're happy to participate and collaborate with the EDC as tenants in the mall currently determine that they want to stay in Springfield. As I said, we look at that as a reinvestment of those businesses in the city. And just to conclude on that, I think that Anton would be one of the first people to tell you, as would Judge Hurley, that the issue of the tenants and the importance of the tenants to the city was made clear at the outset of this in the very early discussions. And, you know, those discussions have taken place over months. So, you know, from the city's perspective, those tenants that are at Eastfield Mall right now that decide to reinvest in Springfield, we will be working with them as we would any business that has an interest in doing business in Springfield.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Tim, for your answer. Thank you,
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. We'll go now to Councilor Click Bruce, followed by Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Council President. I'll definitely be short. I just want to make a few comments to my colleague, Councilor Whitfield. I like that she wanted to get some mentorship going, and I will be a strong proponent of that, and would like to be in those conversations, especially somebody mentioned our young people, our teens, and making sure our high school students are a part of that process. So I think that's great, and that warmed my heart. Also, Seth, thank you for including me in the initial conversation and also going to the 16 Acres Council and making sure those that our constituents were aware, even though it's not in our ward. I thank you for doing your due diligence with that, and you made a good presentation and answered all the questions that we had there. In reference to Councilor Davila and the walking group, I can work with Councilor Govan. I know we had some brief conversation with the Greenleaf and about having an opportunity to bring that walking group over to Claudio Concepcion Center. Obviously, there's to be a different moving parts, and we'll have to talk to my neighborhood council president, who's here, Don Roberts, as well. But some initial conversations we had with that. So again, I'm excited about this project personally. It's right up the street from my house, and we need more restaurants. Eastfield Mall is a dinosaur. It's terrible. It needs to come down. And last but not least, I want to also support my fellow councilor, Councilor Brown, and he mentioned we're all concerned about those small businesses, minority businesses that are in Eastfield Mall. So that was at our forefront for sure. And I thank you for supporting them, and we want to make sure they're at the forefront and they're being supported all the way to the end. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just want to take stock of where we are at 9:15, 9:10. Personally, for myself, I'm feeling good about this project. I think we normally are done by 10. We're not a lock to be done by 10 tonight, the way we're going. So I want to just say, at least the interim report from me, which could be a final report, is I'm feeling good about the components here. I think everybody's excited about the project. No one has said anything negative about the project that I've heard. There have been some concerns about relocating people and some DEIB concerns and mentorship, which I think have been addressed nicely by Anton. So my look at it, when I make it into like an equation, we got an interested, passionate developer. We got a great concept. We got active plans on the current business owners. I think Shamara, I hope I'm saying your name right, was very specific and clear in how much she's trying to work with them. We've got a great plot of land that has served this city since 1968 in the way it is, but it's time to use that land differently. And I believe that there's been a great plan put forward and great job addressing the concerns that have come up. I just want to give I'm feeling favorable about this, and would hope we could move towards a vote very soon. I know there's a couple more people probably in the queue, but I haven't heard of anything that there hasn't been a good plan and a good response to. Any concern that there hasn't been a good plan or a good response to. So I'm looking forward to voting for this more sooner than later, if we could. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Allen. Next up is Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is for Judge Mary Hurley. Is she available?
Yes, sir. Councilor Brown.
I'm just curious as far as your opinion on the actual finished project when it comes to the displaced people. Do you think that these individuals will address it properly?
Yes, I do.
I mean, the best they can. I mean, nothing's gonna be, 100%. But do you think they will follow up and address the concerns of some of the tenants being displaced?
I think that they're acting in good faith. I think that they've gone above and beyond what could reasonably have been expected. And the fact of the matter is, as was said here tonight, the Eastfield Mall's been a dinosaur for a long time, for the last 10 years. As with every other city where there's a mall, they've just imploded. And the fact of the matter is, the owners of the Eastfield Mall were seriously thinking about just shutting it down because operationally it was costing them more money than they were making by far. And they were trying to come up with a good solution for everybody. So the tenants there, I think, ended up with a more beneficial opportunity than there would have been if it had just been the mall's closing. I forget how long I've been involved in this. When you get to be my age, your memory fades quickly. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I've been involved with Eastfield Mall for 3 years, just about. Nobody remembers me from here. I can tell. It's okay.
Well, and the reason why I asked, I do believe that it's a good project. I've known you almost my whole life. Good friends with Kevin, your nephew from Cathedral. So I've always supported you since I was a kid. So I have a lot of respect and look up to you. I definitely appreciate all the work you've done as a mayor, as a judge, and for the state. So I just with your recommendation, it definitely and my colleague ward counselor supporting it, and the neighborhood council supporting it, I definitely will definitely support it. Thank you for your service and thank you for all you do. Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President.
Brown, and good luck in the election.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to, I think, urge all of us, after hearing Tim, thank you so much, Tim, for your comments and for your input, and for guarantee that the tenants at the mall will get, the support that they need going forward, especially from the city. I didn't want the city to feel left out or to be left out of the support that we can offer them. I've been talking to a lot of the tenants at the mall, and I'm urging the counselors, if any of the tenants reach out to you and, say that they haven't been able to contact Xiomara, please reach out to her because she's very responsive. Like she said, there are 4 tenants that she has reached out to that haven't reached back out to her. So if there's maybe phone numbers changed or whatever, please reach out to her because she is very responsive. I talk to her all the time, especially the last couple of weeks. So I'm urging actually all the counselors to support this tonight. I came in, I wasn't sure because there was some unanswered questions, but having heard everything that I heard tonight, and I'm hoping everyone else heard the same thing, I think this is a great project. Our neighborhood council supports it. The tenants, the residents behind the mall support it with conditions, of course. I got an email, actually, I think I told Seth, that they don't want a Chick-fil-A out there, because I think it was in the newspaper that possibly a Chick-fil-A will come out. Well, because of the, the controversy with the LGBTQ and all that, yeah. So there's controversy around that. But I let the resident know that, they have a recourse if they want that. It's not set in stone. So at this time, I think I just want to move forward. I'm with Councilor Allen. It's almost 10 o'clock past my bedtime. And I think that we need to just go forward with the vote. Should I move the question? No. And I pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. We'll go now to Councilor Whitfield.
But I think no one's after
The hearing remains open.
Oh,
Councilor
okay.
Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. The hearing is open, so I want to be quick, but there was a question I forgot to ask, and that's hours of operation. Is it going to be like all closed at the same time? Because remember, Macy's could stay open later than other stores, or we're not that far yet?
So we're not that far yet, but I can just tell you that based on where we are, there will be like just a regular, like a clothing store would probably close at like 7 or 6, and then the restaurants typically will stay till
7?
I don't know. I'm making that up.
Oh, yeah, that's too
So
early.
8
gotta
o'clock.
shop till 12. No.
8 o'clock. But where the restaurants will be later, so it will be staggered. But yeah, that's as far as we are.
Anton, am I correct that unlike a traditional mall that opens and closes, this will be a tenant-driven decision based on the
okay.
leases with the tenant?
Exactly.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
all tenant. It'll be tenant specific.
And I know my colleagues are ready to go, so I just want Tim one more time. Huh? I do. You know I do. Sorry. So I just want us to think creatively about ARPA funds, and maybe we could talk about it, but a lot of the small businesses that moved because they, during COVID, they lost some of their income and the rent was considerably low. And so they moved there because they couldn't afford their old places. And so maybe we could be creative when we think about ARPA and think about it from that aspect.
As you know, Counselor, we have funded some of the small business requests that have come from the mall that applied for the ARPA funding.
Mm-hmm.
And it clearly based on the economic impact associated with those businesses.
Okay.
We're happy to, I'm happy to engage in a conversation about that. But I do think, we've kind of closed the small business program at this point. But happy to engage and figure out, how we can be helpful.
Especially since we're on the same page. And then finally, I just want to tout that we have the number 4 technical community college in the country, in the nation. Yep. And so we have more mentorship opportunities to go. And that is my final comment. Mr. Anton, it's been a pleasure, AKA Mr. Onyx. Thank you all. You have a great team, by the way. Everybody's looking, it's a great team out here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila, the hearing remains open. Also, this iPad is going to die soon. And so
Thank you, Mr.
I will need to
President.
switch out the
I will be
iPad
brief.
soon.
I just want to echo Councilor Whitfield's thoughts on saying to Anton that you indeed have put an A-team together with Seth and former Mayor Hurley. So my compliments to you. Very good work, great discussion. And I thank you all for your presentation today. Also, if I may, to Councilor LeVar Click, to the President, Councilor Click, I will be more than happy to work with you collaboratively through the Elders Affairs Committee to see how we can keep the walking club, the Elders Walking Club, whether it be to 16 acres or finding a new location within the mall is something that will be more than happy to work with you, because it's not only a health issue or health activity, but also a social issue and a tradition, honestly, in the East Fair Mall, and one that we should not lose. And so, Councilor, I'll be more than glad to work with you on this issue, and I'll be reaching out to you in the near future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. The hearing remains open. Are there any further questions for the petitioner prior to the close of the hearing? Councilor Walsh.
Question.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
I vote yes to call the question.
Councilor Walsh, are you trying to call the question?
Yes.
Well, Councilor Walsh, the hearing remains open. You could make a motion to close the hearing, although I am going to close the hearing if there is no further deliberation at this time anyways.
Well, I think it's the same, we'll achieve the same end.
Councilor Walsh, the floor is yours. Do you wish to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to end the hearing and call the question.
Second.
Councilor Walsh has made a motion to close the public hearing, seconded by Councilor Allen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On the motion to close the hearing, Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Whitfield? Yes, Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The hearing is now closed. Is there any deliberation amongst the council prior to our vote? Councilor Fenton.
Mr. President, I just want to say that I'm fully in support of this project. I think the petitioner and those involved in advocating have done a terrific job outlining a really exciting economic development project for the city. To Councilor Govan's point, if there is a Chick-fil-A, I won't dine there, but I won't begrudge anybody else who does, because the chicken's very good. Thank you.
Is there any further, thank you, Councilor Fenton. Is there any further deliberation prior to our vote? Seeing no further deliberation, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the special permit. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On approval of the special permit, Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The special permit is approved. Councilor Fenton on the reasons.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use, and we incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision as the basis of the findings.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Is there any discussion on the reasons? Seeing no discussion on the reasons, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the reasons.
On approving the reasons, Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez absent. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The reasons are approved. Madam Clerk, is there any further business properly brought before this council?
There is not.
Seeing none, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.